Evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Riddler's Rambles. I'm actually quite excited that we've made it to 3, to be fair. People seem to be enjoying it, which is weird for me because I sometimes think, who cares? You know what I mean? They're just watching. I'm just talking absolute waffle, but maybe they prefer the guests, which, to be fair, I do anyway. So that's what we're here for. Before we get into today's guest, it's my first ever shout out for my patrons. A massive thank you to all of you that have signed up and that are enjoying the obviously behind the scenes content and the Discord chat and all of that basically. If you are interested, the link will be in the description, but every penny of it will be going to the animals. If you're interested, please feel free to have a look. Otherwise, I think it's time we get into episode 3. So again, it's going to be a good one. And like I said before, it would be weird if I started a podcast by saying this one's not going to be that great. Be a bit of an insult as well, but it's going to be class. I'm looking forward to this one. So my guest today is Tori from Tori's Exotics, who I came across on TikTok. Basically got speaking a couple of times since. Now follow each other on Instagram, YouTube, all of that. Very awesome selection of animals, like you'll find out very shortly. Basically loves what she does, loves the animals. You can tell from start to finish on all of her content that it is all about the animals. But anyway, I think everyone's probably sick of me and my introduction already, so let me bring Tori in.
Hi.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I'm looking, like I say, I'm looking forward to this because again, it's probably going to be quite social media heavy. We won't start off on that, but let's start with, if you want to just introduce yourself and also the animals you keep, and then we can take it from there.
That's gonna take a couple minutes. So yeah, my name's Tori, but I started off making TikToks probably about 6 months ago now. Originally I had just a bearded dragon and a leopard gecko for years. And I would say pandemic kind of happened, the obsession kind of happened, and now I'm up to 39 reptiles. Although, to be fair, a lot of them are part of, I breed crested geckos, that's kind of my thing. I have some future projects and stuff, which obviously we can talk about if you want to, but yeah, I have a big variety of species. I'm not like, I know certain people like to stick to their niche, but I'm kind of all over the place. So I have obviously my bearded dragon leopard gecko. I now have actually 2, one of them having neurological issues, that she was like an adoption situation from a breeder. I have, of course, my crested geckos, which lots of my followers know me for. I think I'm up to 12, although a lot of them are babies and either have homes or will have homes soon. I have my blue tongue skink. I have 4 snakes now, although I didn't keep snakes for a long time. I had a snake probably about 4 years ago, and it wasn't the best experience, and it kind of scared me for a little bit, honestly, which again I can talk about. But I had a king snake. He was a rescue. He bit me a lot, and I was just not ready to handle a rescue in that kind of situation. So I didn't have snakes until, honestly, probably like 9-10 months ago. It's only been recent. And the minute I brought home this snake, I fall in love with them. I now have 4. So nice. Snakes are kind of my recent obsession, to be honest with you. But I have a milk snake, royal python, Hog Island boa, and a corn snake. I have my Aki monitor. I keep things outside of reptiles as well, which I know this is a reptile podcast.
No, that's fine. No, you can tell us all of your animals. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I have 2 dogs. I have a Labrador and a Chihuahua, so a good size difference there.
Little and large.
Yeah, running around at the park is always interesting. I have my 4 quails, which actually I got because of my reptile hobby. A lot of my reptiles eat quail eggs,
Okay.
and I ended up actually getting them not only because I'm interested in birds. I've owned a parrot before, but because I thought that would be a fun way of like having another pet, but also supplying a diet. Because quail eggs, I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me in the UK, it's like really hard to get them, and they're quite expensive unless you go to like a specific supermarket. So
Yeah.
they actually then feed my reptiles with quail eggs, which is quite cool. I then brought home 2 ferrets last week, who are my little children at the moment. I have cats. Yeah, I've kind of like, I'm very much, my social media is reptile focused, and that is kind of what generates my views to what I stick to. But I do keep a wide variety of different things, and then I have like emerald tree skinks as well, which are relatively new, and they're actually going to be a future breeding project as well, because they're really quite they're not really captive bred in the UK. I don't see them that often, so I really want to work with them and on that, which is, I'm quite excited for that. But they're literally babies at the moment, so that is a future project for sure. And I think that's everyone. I'm like running through my reptile room in my head, trying to make sure that I've included. There's gonna be one poor animal I've forgotten about, but yeah, I think that's. Oh, and amphibians. I have my white string frogs and my Pac-Man frog.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't forget about those.
And also one that I saw on one of your recent videos that you've been getting into as well, the little creepy crawlies. Have you still got them, the tarantulas?
Yeah. So I tried to branch out, and essentially what I was saying about the snake fear, I had a bad experience. I never had a bad experience with spiders. I just feel like it's kind of engraved into you to kind of have this fear of arachnids. And I think with the snakes, I had this thing of like, is it called like exposure therapy? Like when you're exposed to something for a certain amount of time, you get over that fear. And when I had this baby snake, and I purposely got a very tamed down, breeded, like tame snake, and I came out of it and I loved them. So I got some tarantulas, hoping the same thing would happen. I will say I'm absolutely terrified of them. I do still have them, but the fear is there. I'm like very much, they're only teeny tiny, so I was like, oh, maybe like if I grow with them, I won't be so nervous. But I am definitely like, I don't want to handle that. I even like opening them to feed them, I get quite nervous. So yeah, I'm I have them, they're fine, I look after them, but they're definitely I don't know. I've had a few of my followers actually talk about them, that I've actually spoke to a couple of them about having them, and I would obviously, they would probably provide, excellent care and stuff. So possibly they'll be given to somebody else, just because it's been like 3 months and I'm terrified. I am so scared of them.
Do you reckon that it's going to sound really weird? Because obviously they're going to get big, but do you reckon because they're so small, that's almost not helping your fear? Because obviously, like, sometimes the little ones are the scariest ones, if that makes sense. Do you reckon maybe once they get a bit bigger?
I'm like, I got 3 dwarf species, because I was like, if they're a bit smaller in general, like I'll be, a little less worried. And then I got 1 Mexican red knee, which is like gonna be like this big, which again in my head I was like, oh, but it's gonna be big and slow, and but I just think I don't know, maybe I'll get over it and I'll keep them. But at the moment I'm very much like, as well, because you don't handle them, you don't like interact with them really. I mean, I know there's people who do handle their tarantulas, but that's kind of a mixed opinion on whether you should. I definitely wouldn't handle like the spiderlings, because they're literally like 0.5 of a centimeter, like they're tiny. The Mexican red knee, she's about 2 centimeters, and she's fast. So like I have her in like only a box like this big, and I'll like be trying to like sort her enclosure out, and it makes me, I can handle like some of the biggest lizards you see. No worry, no stress. Boss monitor, I have a boss monitor, I forgot about her. She's like 5 foot, and but then a little tiny spider is my weak spot, so it doesn't make any sense really. But I'm trying it. I tried.
But no, fair play to you. Absolutely fair play. Because the thing is people have asked me before as well, would you keep tarantulas or spiders? And I say, I'd love a jumping spider. I really would love a jumping spider. With tarantulas, I find them fascinating. And some of them are really pretty as well. Like, I know a lot of people will hear me say a spider's pretty and go, what are you talking about? But they can be really pretty. Would I have one? I don't know. Because again, for me, the problem would be is if I had to go in there to, I don't know, pick out a molt or obviously do some cleaning, some this and that. If I have to be in close contact with that spider, can I do it? I don't. If it escapes, because I've had snakes escape, and then if I find the snake, I'm just like, yeah, cool, pick it up, goes in, jobs are good. But if I have to catch a tarantula,
I'd move out.
I don't. Yeah, the house is yours now. There's your upgrade. You've got a house.
It's good. I didn't want my room anyway. The reptile room is yours. Yeah, no, I 100% like it is. Yeah, I do get it, but then I kind of had that fascination. But like, I think with everything in kind of the exotic keeping, you don't know until you try a lot of the time. You don't get hands-on experience with things until you own it yourself. And I've had maybe one experience with a spider before, or so now I was like, oh, I'll just try it. You got over your snake fear, and they're happy, they're chilling. But they didn't get a mention because I try to forget that they're there sometimes. I think.
No, but like I say, fair play, because you're actually giving it a go. Like, a lot of people think of something they're scared of and they just block it out completely forever. So it's the best way of going about it. Might I do the same in the future? Maybe. The only way I want to say allowed to do so is if I had a reptile room that wasn't connected to the house. Because like I say, if a tarantula got out, my missus would be like, nah. She'd be like, either set the house on fire or but
Move on. It's over.
We're out.
I think it's just, I think as well, I fell into the trap of it's very expensive to ship live animals, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna do that, I'll get a few different wolf species. And next thing I know, I have 4 spiders I'm terrified of, which was a silly move. And I knew it the minute they arrived. I was like, this either go really well or really badly. And I'm like, but I have had a few people on lives and stuff who have said to me they might take them. So they might get onto a home who can not be quite so scared of their presence, really.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
I think when you're scared of something as well, you don't appreciate nor take care of it to the quality that it probably deserves. And I'm very like, I kind of leave them to it. They have their basic requirements, but I'm not, with my other reptiles, I love them so much. I'm researching, I want to add things, I want to do this, but my spiders, I don't feel that way about. So it's almost like counterintuitive whether it's even worth me having them, for sure. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And the thing is, there seems to be almost like a stigma when it comes to rehoming. It's like, but I don't see a problem with it. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're not just shipping the animal off to who cares. If you realise that you can't, or you haven't got the, whether it's time, whether it's you've got the bravery, I guess, or the love for this animal. If you know someone is going to have this animal and look after it better than maybe that you can offer it, I really don't see a problem. There's almost like a stigma with rehoming animals. Oh, we should have got it in the first place. But sometimes it's not as easy as that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think there's this big thing around, like rehoming for, I think there's times where it's just a bit, accept that you've done your wrong. I mean, I've made a few posts about my main issue is not even the profit, but the getting your money back because you're not interested. I think that's a bit like, it kind of, if you think you're going to be interested in something, or time goes by, you're no longer interested, trying to then, I see a lot of ads that are like £300 for a tank and a snake and this and that, because they're trying to get exactly what they paid for it back, because they think they're owed that. Is the only time I have an issue. And I see people, I don't mind if you add a little fee, because I'd rather it go to a home that's willing to pay some money. 100% I agree with that. But it's only when people think they're deserving of their money back. Like, everyone makes mistakes, and you know, you can find a good home, but there's always those few people who are like, well, I paid this much, so I deserve at least, like, and I'm like, okay, like, things do happen, but you kind of need to, when you pay that money for an animal, that money's gone, in my opinion. You know, if you decide to rehome it, completely fine, things change, and that animal is probably going to be better off. But accept that money's gone. Don't try and like get that money back off of people, for sure.
Well, it's like, because I think I've mentioned this in one of the previous podcasts. I have had a similar situation to you where I got a juvenile carpet python, and she was a savage. Even at the small size she was about 1.5 foot or something, so she was still quite small. She was a savage, and I was like, right, I should be all right. I'm going to try and calm her down, tame her down, this and that, blah blah blah. And it just wasn't. I didn't have the time to do so, and this was going to end up being a sort of 6-7 foot snake plus. And so I decided I'm going to move her on. I think I paid about 150 for her, but the person who wanted her off of me, at first I was just like, look, I'm not really that. And they said, I'll give you, 50 quid. And I said, all right, fine. Do you know what I mean? Because that pays for like the food that I've paid. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, I could have said, well, go on.
No, I just think that money as well is kind of like a security deposit, in terms of you're not just going to throw them out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've paid something to at least, like, I think that's fine. I think asking for some money is completely, if anything, sensible, but it's just the like full price people, I'm like,
or even trying to make a profit off of them as well.
Oh yeah, you're like flipping reptile people. I see them a lot of the time. They'll get something for cheap, and then it's up a week later for double the price, and I'm like, it's a shame when people are looking for the good homes. A good home sometimes comes at losing some of that profit, because a lot of the time they'd rather put that money into veterinary care or their setup. That is the only time I have a problem with it, is the profit, like, people, or just thinking they're owed something. I think, I mean, as I said earlier, like, I had that snake who I wasn't prepared for whatsoever. Can have a conversation about adopting versus buying. I think there's a time and a place, and I got that wrong, and I had a snake that was a rescue, and it was hell, and I had to give him away. And now I kind of live with that and regret it, because now I feel like I could deal with that because I'm a lot braver. But at the time, I still stand by the decision of the people I gave him to, were a lot more confident with snakes, and it was 100%. I paid like £250 for him. I gave him away for free. I gave him to like someone who I knew that could, make sure he was out of his enclosure and enjoying and getting him rich and cleaned out, whereas I was literally terrified. It's not about the money when it comes to rehoming, but in terms of people having a go at people for rehoming, it's just like, things happen, and there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion.
I agree. Like, when you say you've got that slight regret of maybe because I could do it now, I think the same about the carpet python. I do genuinely, because now that I'm more experienced and I've handled more animals, I've been bitten by snakes as well. You do sort of go, maybe I could have done, but it's done. I know that she went to a good home. She's been well looked after, so that's all right. Like I say, as long as it's not an animal that you're, like you say, trying to flip and make a profit off of, I don't think it's too bad. I think it's sometimes, like you say, it's the wrong time, wrong place, and it, if you can't offer it what it deserves, then I don't see a problem with just moving them on.
Yeah, I definitely think for me, it was like right animal, wrong time. Like, I just wasn't equipped to deal with the situation. I think about it all the time. I'm like, the things I could have done with this snake, and like, but then I have to be realistic about, at the time, it was not a good idea. Like, I wasn't doing enough with it because I was scared of it. And that's like, now I'm laughing at myself. Like, it was all in my head. Well, it wasn't all in my head. It bit me a bunch of times, but I definitely built it up in my head to be this much bigger thing than it needed to be. But again, at a different time, it would have been different. But again, I went with a rescue route when I probably shouldn't have. And, but it's in a good home now. At least I bought it out of that bad place. And then, he's fine now. I get updates. He's okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, I guess in a way, then it's almost like you were the foster until you found a permanent home. That's one way of looking at it.
yeah, temporary foster, and then yeah, he I remember when they came to like collect it, and I was like all a bit nervous myself to even like help them get it. And he just stuck his hand in, took her, and she was completely fine, not a
Mm-hmm.
bother. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and in that moment, I kind of knew that was where she needed to be,
yeah.
100%. But it's still it's gonna sit with you regardless. If you have any animal, for me, I'm always gonna think about it for sure.
I mean, I guess the good thing is now is it's a lesson that you've learned and that you can take forward, so that now you can concentrate more on your current animals, knowing what you know now, and also any possible rehomes and rescues in the future.
Yeah, I mean, but since that, I've had the exact same situation, a snake coming into me who was a bit flighty, and like not had a problem with him, and he's still here. So yeah, I think just like in terms of rescuing as your first couple of animals, it's always a bit like touchy, and I just didn't I didn't handle that situation very well. Again, it was my first kind of experience with owning a snake. But yeah, I've kind of taken that into like I think I have a lot of animals I've gotten for free, but only one of them, the snakes, I got for free, and he's like with a whole rehoming rescue situation, he's doing great now. So yeah, you learn with these
Yeah,
experiences for sure.
yeah, yeah, of course. So, what actually got you into the reptile hobby in the first place?
So I feel like my story is probably a little bit different. I didn't directly go into reptiles because, as I said, I've been quite interested in like a bunch of different animals for a long time. I think growing up, we always had animals in the house, but not reptiles, because my mum's like not a fan. So it was, dogs, cats. I've had like 7 hamsters probably over the years. Okay, maybe exaggeration, but like 2 or 3 hamsters. Gerbils. I've had rats for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I never kind of delved into reptiles. But when I left school, I mean, in the UK, we kind of go from school to then, further education. I actually went to study animals and animal care. So I did animal husbandry as part of that, and we actually did work on an exotic unit, and that's when I kind of started learning about reptiles. They also had aquatics and stuff like that, which I've never personally got into, but we did like birds as well, and I've had birds in the past. But yeah, like reptiles, I actually posted a TikTok once of like my first encounter with a snake, and it's awful. It's so embarrassing, but I was actually I was terrified. Because I couldn't read the body language of it. I didn't understand, like, and I was talking in the video about how I kind of wanted a snake. And then this snake was like coming out, and it had like blue eyes from its shedding, but obviously I didn't know what that was, and it was coming towards me, and like I'm super freaked out. And in the video, I'm like, I'm never going to own a snake, which is so funny to me now, because now I'm like, I've got 4, but okay, whatever you say. But yeah, so I did that, and then after that, I ended up I went on to study dietary and stuff. But it was kind of like animals in general. And then yeah, when I left, I got my first ever reptile, which was my leopard gecko, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. Then my bearded dragon was a year after that, so like 3-4 years, and then I kind of took a break until the pandemic hit, and then everyone was stuck inside and everyone was bored, and I was spending a lot more time researching reptiles, and I moved and I was allowed pets, and I got my dog, and I actually, because of my dog, changed professions. So I used to go into the office like Monday to Friday, 12 hours a day, like with the commute and stuff. And when they asked us to go back to the office and I had my dog, I said no.
Yeah.
And I changed my career completely because of my dog,
Wow.
which is crazy. No,
Yeah.
I know. But I just wasn't like, when I got her, I said I won't leave her in the house for 12 hours a day. I won't do it. So yeah, I quit my job, started a new job where I work from home, and with that came a lot more free time and a lot more time to not only research what I was into, but get more into reptiles. So yeah, I'd say about 2 years ago is when I really started to 2 or 3 years, yeah, probably 2 years, I started to really build my collection. And then, yeah, about 6 months ago was when I started making videos about them. I think actually I posted a video in like December of just like my first bioactive build, because I was trying something and I was like, make a little cheeky TikTok, and it got, I think now it's up to like 100,000 views or something. And I was like, it was crazy. And I was like, why?
Wow.
I didn't think anyone cared. I think I followed a couple of bigger creators who obviously, were posting stuff. I was like, I had to watch so much stuff when it came to bioactive builds that I wanted to make like the content myself and make a cute little clip. And I've kind of enjoyed doing videos in my personal life anyway for years. So I thought kind of connect that into the reptile hobby I have. And yeah, people loved it. And then after that, I just kept posting. I have had a couple of breaks here and there, but yeah, and that kind of, I think when I started TikTok, I probably had somewhere between like 10 and 12 reptiles, and now I'm at like 30. But that also does include a lot of the babies I was saying earlier. So yeah, I think probably the last 2 years is when it's really taken off. But again, a lot more time, a lot more money, a new job, a new space. So I think kind of unlocking those doors has let me do what I'm doing now, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So obviously, what is it that made you transition from just wanting to be like a hobbyist keeper to then wanting to like get into breeding? Like, I get it, because like obviously for me, I've bred some royals. I'm not doing so anymore, as we know. So I get it. But for those who don't, what is it that made you go, right, I'm enjoying this, but now let me try this?
I think it's a mixture of like, it's honestly an awful thing to say, but the curiosity of it and wanting to experience that, as like having been around reptiles for such a long time and never bred, it kind of feels like, and you'll probably agree with me, in the natural progression of a hobbyist, like it's almost like you owe it to yourself to start breeding, and that's what people do. But I will say I was very like selective with what I wanted to do. As I said, I've only been breeding for I think 3 or 4 months now, and I'm very like, I don't breed a lot. I breed very small. I would love to say high quality, but like very like, I only do specific matches, and I'm very like, I'm quite careful with what I do, which was a big part of it for me. With I think crested geckos as well, like I thought about what I wanted to do, and went back and forth between different species, and the almost like the rehoming rate, or the leopard geckos, for example, crossed my mind. But I just feel like there are so many leopard geckos, and especially like looking for homes and stuff. But when I go on Pets for Homes and look for crested geckos, like I don't see as many, and that is kind of like the animal I would consider myself to know the most about, to have the most experience with. But yeah, I decided I was going to do it probably about 4 months ago, partly selfishly wanted to experience it, and partly because I will say, and people will probably disagree with me, but I do believe the more smaller scale breeders we have of specific species, the better. I think that some of these massive corporations that are reptile mills, essentially, if you relate it to puppy mills, are pumping out these animals, not paying any attention to their care or their health or what they're producing, would almost be ruled out if more small scale breeders could take over that space. I think 10 small scale breeders producing quality over quantity versus one massive 200 reptile establishment that isn't paying attention to their animals is 10 times better. So I kind of wanted to be a part of that quality over quantity. I can talk to every single person I breed and produce to. I can send them my care guides. I can answer their questions, whereas big breeders can't do that. And I think if you don't have the time to come back to people about their questions, then you're producing too many animals. So that is where I kind of fell into. And a lot of people say that, you know, don't breed because there's too many. And I do partly agree with that. But there are always going to be people who want baby reptiles and want that growing experience and want, you know, there's same with puppies, people like, or dogs, or that's the only thing I can kind of relate it to, in that, yeah, sure, there's always going to be dogs for adoption, but it's kind of the adopt or shop responsibly mentality.
Yeah.
And I think in reptile keeping, we're kind of limited to that shop responsibly category because it's these massive mills, or you need to find a specific breeder, and there's not that many of us. I would say that do it well. I mean, and do it ethically, and do it properly.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would rather do that.
I think the more people that do that, the better, honestly.
Yeah.
It would rule out those big dogs.
Yeah. I would rather buy an animal that I know who, like you say, if you've got maybe 3 or 4 pairs that you're looking after, that have got the full size enclosures and things like that, and they're producing a few babies a year, I would rather one of those babies than, like you say, something from a big scale, almost like industrial scale breeder, you know, because you know what you're getting and you know how these animals are looked after. It's like the quality you put in is almost what you'll get out as well. So no, I agree. I do agree with you. And have you had much joy with regards to selling and everything?
I mean, we're literally just about to get to the weight that I'm happy with, a lot of them. And I've already got 3 reserves that aren't ready to go, which is great. Also with that, I'm quite careful with, I don't want to overproduce to what I can't sell. So personally this year, I've got maybe 15 that are going to go, like, be rehomed, and probably I'll hold back some of those. So I didn't want to go in the first year not knowing, and I think that's what some people make this mistake of doing, is thinking it's easy money and they breed a bunch of them, and then you have 50 geckos that don't have anywhere to go, and they end up wholesaling them to the reptile shop around the corner, and they don't make their money back, and, you know, everything else. So for me, it was definitely quality over quantity, and this year it will be very, very low in numbers. I think, yeah, maybe like a quarter of them are pre-sold, a quarter of them I'll keep, so probably about half will still need homes. And then next year, you know, if it goes well, then next year maybe we'll produce some more. If it doesn't, we'll adjust. But that's crested geckos, and then obviously I have my emerald tree skinks, but that is a very, like, different situation. But yeah, we'll kind of see. I think next year, like next season, I'll kind of gauge where we go from that, really.
I mean, I've pretty much made that mistake that you were saying about, that people get them in, they look to breed, sell, blah blah blah. I've currently got royal pythons that I'm not planning on breeding anymore, but I can't seem to sell. Like, I feel awful about it, but I'm upgrading everyone to Vivs, or those that I keep, sorry. I can't build 14, 15, 16 Vivs, so I have to move some of them on, unfortunately. But that's it. I have to learn from my mistake and get on with it. But at least it's got to the point, like, luckily I don't have a warehouse full of them. It's just a few that unfortunately
well,
I
at least
now have to move on.
You made the mistake within the time frame it's appropriate to fix it. Some people get in, you know, 100 snakes deep before they realize, especially like royal pythons, like that whole realm is just crazy to me. But yeah, at least it's like, that's what I see people doing that I don't, you know, people make mistakes, people try things out, and I think at least you're not just gonna keep them. At least they're all gonna go, you know, the ones that go to live in homes are gonna be in their Vivs and stuff, and, you know, things happen. But yeah, people keeping the abundance of them, I can't get rid of them, so I'll keep them in a drawer. Someone will eventually. I'm like, all right.
So the plan at the minute is I'm sort of gonna build everyone a Viv, but it's almost going to be like the Vivs are built and then split in half. But for me, that's still better than being in a tub. Like, even if they're only in a 2 by 2 by 18 inches, that's still already bigger than the tubs, and they're already like, I still won't feel good about it, but I'll be like, at least you're out of the tubs. Like every day that I walk in here and see it, I go, oh God, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what have I done? But it's done. Like, there's nothing I can do. You know, I was sold the lie that they love it. I fell for it, and here I am. But the plan is in place, and the wheels are in motion, that we're moving on from that. So that's all right. But
I think as well, like they adjust better to. There's been like a lot of studies about how they adjust to being in vivs after being kept in racks. But you know, even if it's a smaller viv, getting them used to that rather than just being thrown straight into a 4x2x2, which can actually take them by surprise, can be a good stepping stone for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we've spoken about obviously the cresties, obviously emerald tree skinks in the future when they're a bit older. Now that you've bred and produced cresties, are there any others that you're tempted? Like obviously it won't be royals, it won't be, but are there any that you look at and you go, well, maybe I could look at that as well?
Honestly, not particularly. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of leopard geckos and royals kind of fall into the same category for me, that, you know, people produce them and people produce them well, but they're a bit oversaturated for me to really consider. As I said, I've only really worked with snakes and owned snakes for like a year, so they're not, I wouldn't want to breed something that I haven't got a few years under my belt, you know. So snakes are kind of ruled out. And then cresties I just know and love and have owned for years. And then the emerald tree skinks are more the avenue of, most of them in the UK are wild caught. Mine aren't. Mine were captive bred and they're teeny tiny little babies. So yeah, I kind of want to help. Lots of people are interested in them, but there's nowhere to get them from. So that is a more project to try and like help the captive bred population in the UK for sure. And you know, I hope in a few years I can do that. But yeah, I don't think so. I think that's kind of like my niche, at least for now. I mean, maybe one day I'll want to do something else, but yeah, as I said, the ones that I can talk about their care all day, every day is my cresties. So I'm like, I think as well, if you stick to something you know and you love, you're going to do it well. Which is kind of what I'm trying to do for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a very sensible outlook on it as well. Because the problem is I've seen it myself. I hatched some royals. It's a rush. It really is. When these little baby snakes pop out of the egg, you go, that's cool. But then it's what happens after that. That's the problem. That's why I've said to myself, it's not happening anymore. But I get it. I do understand why people enjoy doing it, because you've got these little babies crawling out that you've helped produce. And you're like, yeah, that's cool. I wouldn't mind doing that again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think as well for me, like if I had endless space, you could ask me that question again. It will be a very, very different answer.
Yeah.
But I'm very big on like my breeders get the minimum or above, and they get bioactive tanks, and I can't do that for more than what I'm doing, and that's fine. Like I'm happy with that, but I'd rather live with that than keeping anything less than, obviously my babies aren't in these massive bioactive tanks,
of course,
but, you know, all my adults are well taken care of, and I never want to deplenish that to then. And anyone who's bred reptiles will know that there's no money in it, so it's not for that purpose.
Yeah, no, that's like I say, that's a very sensible way of looking at it, and it's good. It really is. You've got your niche, you know what you love, and you're doing it properly. Because the thing is, it's very, very easy to buy more reptiles. It's almost too easy. You know, you could go on Morph Market, for example, tomorrow, and in a week's time, you could have 10 more cresties.
Oh yeah.
It's too easy, you know. So fair play to you for that one. Like I say, I've unfortunately I went further before I realised I was doing it wrong. But no, fair play to you. That's it's the way it should be, definitely. Have you got a favourite crestie out of yours that you've got?
I probably do. To be honest, I say that I don't have a favorite of my animals, and then if you take enough time to look at my social media, you'll probably see. But I have a lily white called Phoenix.
Nice.
Who is like my child.
Yeah.
I love her so much. I mean, I've only had her, I think, less than a year, like 9 to 10 months, but she's my best eater. Anytime I offer her anything, which I've struggled with a lot of my other cresties sometimes to get them to, especially live food.
Yeah.
I can put her on my shoulder, she'll sit, she'll chill. She's just, I probably have like 2 or 3 that would like be top 3, but Phoenix is always the one that comes to mind. And also she was one of my first like big purchase, I'm gonna breed this gecko one day kind of things. And but yeah, I have like, I'd say like I think 11 or 12 breeder adults.
Okay.
But I could name every single one of them. Like I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah.
So but yeah, Phoenix would top it. She's beautiful, and she also, like, social media, she gets all the love. So yeah, she's stunning.
But that's the thing. This is what I mean. Like when you say that you could name each and every one of them, I like that, because like I'm the same. All of my snakes have got names. One of the things that started bothering me with, like, I get it to an extent, but I couldn't do it. One of the things that started bothering me was when I was watching these YouTubers that breed royals for a living. All it was 0.1 pastel enchi bongo, 1.0 pastel pied, blah blah blah, and they're just numbers. But then these are animals. Do you know what I mean? Like these aren't like inanimate objects that you can just number and put on a shelf. Like all of my animals have got names, and I know their personalities quite well. So when I started seeing, oh yeah, this is just a 0.1, and then the morph that it was, I was like, I don't like it. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I always say, if someone like, if you put a gun to my head and said name all your reptiles, I can give it to you. Like, I've got every single one. I will say, like, my babies, I don't always name more because of, if I name them, I won't get rid of them.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of, but I still know who their parents are. I know when they were hatched. I know what day they were hatched. I know they're not, like, because they come in clutches of 2, so they either have 1 or 2 out of their parents. But I can't name them because I won't get rid of them. But I have little like nicknames and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, because if I gave them all a sentimental name, I'd be keeping all 30 of them. So
that's literally, that's the problem I face. I'm putting, unfortunately, snakes up for rehoming and sale and things like that, but they've got names. And I'm like, but you know what I mean? I'm like, oh god, it's awful. But like I say, it's a problem I got myself in, so I've got to sort out. So that makes sense. Let's talk snakes, shall we? Because obviously, interestingly, you said you started with a bit of a fear and you went to get over your fear of snakes, and now you've got 4. So it's a palmetto corn snake, isn't it? You've got.
Yes, she's a little baby though, to be fair.
I would love a palmetto. They're stunning snakes. And then what was it? It was a Hog Island boa.
Yeah, so that's my newest one.
Yeah.
So my first one was, I went and got my Royal Python Banoffee.
Oh, that was the first one.
Like, got me into snakes, and is the chillest of all snakes. So he's the kind of the snake, if I have someone over who is scared of snakes, I'll get them to hold Banoffee. And one of my friends actually said that she now wants a Royal Python because I made her hold the snake, and he will literally just, typical Royal who just sit there and chill. So yeah, I've had him maybe like a year, and literally the moment I was exposed to him and realized that snakes weren't scary, I was like, well, this is it then. Like, I'm fine now with snakes. I got my milk snake, who is called Milkshake. He was rehomed to me actually from someone who was like moving house, couldn't bring them with him, which is unfortunate, but they did rehome him to me for free with his stuff. So he did get an upgrade, but he's a typical milk snake. He's a bit like flighty. very food driven.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's great. And then I have my Palmetto corn, which I got at the expo in June. I
Yeah.
think it was June. Yeah, June. And then since then, I've brought home my baby Hog Island boa, who is currently tiny, but will one day be pretty big.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was my most recent.
And how are you sort of finding snakes now that you've got 4 of them and 4 different species as well?
I love snakes. I think as well, I think there's so much less maintenance than my lizards, for sure. I think I'm kind of caught up with my bearded dragon, who needs her salads every day, and she needs this, and she needs enough attention that she's, to then go into a snake, which I could essentially leave alone for the majority of the week. And I feed once a week and just lives out. Obviously, I'm pretty much in there every day handling them, but so much less like work. Obviously relative to different species, but the ones that I have in comparison to the lizards I have, and like my cresties who need to be sprayed down twice a day, and all this other stuff. They're a lot easier for sure. And I definitely wish I had got over the fear earlier. But no, they're great. I love them.
Have you got plans for any more, or like, even if it's not immediate, at some point, have you got like another dream species of snake that you want to get? Or
the only other thing is, so when I went to get my Hog Island boa, when I went and I saw their post about Hog Island boas, I've been looking for a while, and I wanted to get some sort of dwarf species of a boa. And I saw their post, and I went down, and they had either a Hog Island boa or a Brazilian rainbow boa. And I stood for a while trying to decide, I didn't know which path to take, because I've spoke as well actively on social media for about 6 months about wanting a Brazilian rainbow boa.
Yeah.
But I went with the Hog Island in the end. He bit me before I even bought him, which is
Nice.
classic boa behavior, really. But yeah, I did. I went with that, just looking at them in real life, and I really do appreciate my Hog Island's like natural beauty, and like no morphs or anything else. Like, he's just gorgeous. But if I ever had the space for another tank equally as big, I'd get a Brazilian rainbow boa for sure.
That is up there on my list, is a Brazilian rainbow boa. I think a lot of people that know me in the hobby by now, they know that I talk about them quite a lot, to be fair. I think they're stunning. Like, I just think they're one of the most beautiful snakes there are. Again, at the minute I haven't got the room and I'm still doing upgrades, but it's on the list for sure. It's quite a long list that I've got, but it's one of those where I've got champagne taste but tap water pockets. That's the problem. Maybe in the future, if things work out, if the stars align, if YouTube kicks off, if whatever, then I can put all that money into animals, then quite possibly. Or I've got to wait a bit longer. But yeah, they're on the list. So what was it that separated the two to make you choose the Hog Island over the rainbow then?
I think slightly the care. Although I think I would have been able to do it, like the high humidity needed for Brazilian rainbow boas was kind of swaying it a bit for me. I was a bit worried about how I was going to manage that with the tank that I had.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about putting them in a tub, but then trying to have overhead heating. And I think I thought about Brazilian rainbow boas for such a long time that I was like set on it. But when I was actually talking to the people there, and talking about the research I'd done, and just how like the humidity was what scared me, like keeping it at 90 plus all the time as babies. I was like, first boa, maybe I should, and only my 4th snake ever, I was like, maybe I should keep it in the dream list for further down the line. yeah, if I was ever to get another relatively large snake, I mean, I do love my royal pythons, but it'd probably be, yeah, I agree with you. I think the iridescence is crazy. I think they're
Unbelievable.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. But yeah, I think it just came down to care at the end. And yeah, that was about it.
Yeah.
A very small sway, but I had to make a decision.
Yeah. Because what was it? Because I think I remember seeing your TikTok. I can't remember whether you were saying, I've seen a snake, I'm not going to get it, but I'm just going to go and look at it. Was it that one? And then I think the next one you went,
Yeah, no, it was. I was on TikTok live talking about how I'd made a post on Instagram talking about Hog Island boas.
yeah,
And someone had sent me this boa, and it was like, yeah, at a shop, probably about an hour and a half, an hour from me. And I was on the live, oh, guys, I go and have a look at it, but like, I can only have a look.
yeah.
And I'm like, and I was like, but they have a couple. So, like, what I can do, I can go have a look, assess the shop, like, make my decision and come back because, you know, we try not to encourage impulse buys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving it, oh, yeah, well, we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I drove down. I was like, let me just take a little clip. Like, oh, I'm going to look at a new shop today. Like, guys, like, come along with me.
Yeah.
And the minute I walked into the store, I stopped recording and started talking to the people in there. And there was one Hog Island boa left.
Yeah.
Another thing that slightly swayed me was the Hog Island boa they had left was male, and the Brazilian rainbow boa was female.
Okay.
And I've kind of tried to stick to my boy snakes to keep them a bit smaller if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that kind of, they had one boy left. I was like, it's a sign. I was like, yeah, it's a sign. Like, you know, even though he bit me, I'm still taking it as a sign that I should bring him home. I think so. Driving that far to then basically decide I wanted him to then come back, I was like, all right. So then it was just these two clips of me like just going to look at him, strictly viewing purposes only, and then the next one was me unboxing him when I got home.
Listen, I think we've all been there. I genuinely do. And if anyone has ever managed to go and just look and then maybe come back a little while later or not do it, then fair play. Because 9 times out of 10, people that say, I've done it, like I say, it was similar to what you've just said, I'm just going to go and look. You may as well just write liar across the forehead because you know you're just trying to just trying to justify it. But I've done the same thing. We'll just go and look. We'll have a little. We'll see. You get there, you go, oh, go on then. Like you say, we don't condone impulse buying. I mean, obviously, you'd already been doing your research anyway. It's not like you just saw a snake and went, oh, what is it? I'll have it.
Yeah, I don't know what species that is.
Yeah. I don't know what care requirements they need, but I'll have it because it's pretty. That's good. Like, because the only example I can use for that, which again I think I've mentioned before, was Ragnar. I walked into the shop. I was a partner in the shop anyway. I walked in one morning and I saw this dragon in the enclosure, and I went, I don't know what it is, but I need it. Now, what I didn't do, literally, I'll have it. But what I didn't do was take her home that day. I found out what she was. I looked into the requirements. I looked into the size of enclosure. I then had to convince my wife, which to this day I don't know. I cannot tell you how I did it, because bearing in mind it took me a while to get a beardie. That was luckily her idea somehow. And then to get a snake, which was, again, I don't know how I managed that. To then come home and say, I'd like to buy a monitor lizard. I'm no idea. I couldn't tell you. If you were to say, how do you reckon you did it? No idea. Couldn't tell you.
Big jump.
Massive. Because obviously she's there asking the questions, is it going to get big? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. Do they buy it? Only if you put your hands near their mouths, yeah.
Only if they want to.
Only if they want to, but yeah. Do they want to? Well, yeah. Like she wants to bite me. She's very food driven, to be fair. She doesn't want to attack me. She's very food driven. She sees me as the source of food, which is why she's a bit of a smackhead. But so I even though I walked in and went, you want, need, I did then go and do my research first and then bring it home. But I couldn't help it. I fell in love with this animal, and rightly so. So I get it, and I think most people watching this will probably go, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's funny because that's actually one of my most hated videos on TikTok, and one of the most people responding. Like, obviously the nature of the platform and people thinking this girl's just walked into a shop and bought a snake, and I get from a clip point of view how that looks, but yeah, people were mad about that one, and I'm like, you know, I was like, I'm not just, I get the context. It did just look like I walked into a store and bought this snake, but yeah, people were I feel like reptile people understand, and then everyone else was like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, no, it's funny that reptile people remember that TikTok and see it positively, and then people not so much are like, this is the weirdest thing I've seen on the For You page all day.
Yeah, I think the reason why reptile people get it is because we've done it. Like, not everyone, but it's one of those that sometimes when you're like, I need that animal. Like I say, as long as you don't buy it and then go, right, now what care do they need? It happens.
I think if you people have a thought, like, I won't always like talk about everything that I want, but I had this thought about this boa for such a long time that when it, you know, it got sent to me that it was available, like people knew that I was considering it. I think because you don't see what happens in the back of my mind leading up to it, you just see me going, okay, I'm just gonna buy it, fuck it, I'm just gonna bring it home. You only see that part. So
yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with social media, though. That's the problem, is they only see, say you put up a 36-second TikTok, that's all they're going to see. They don't see the research. They don't see the, you know, how much you want it in the first place. It's very easy to look at short form videos and judge immediately. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You shouldn't, you know, if anyone's messaging you and saying you shouldn't have impulse bought that animal, well, how do you, it may look like it, to be fair, sometimes it can, I'm not saying your one did, but sometimes it can look that way because someone goes, I went to my reptile shop today, there was this beautiful animal, so I took it home. They might have known that was there 6 weeks ago. They might have then gone home and done their research. They might, do you know what I mean? But that 6 weeks can be condensed into a 30-second video. And if people,
it's not fun to talk about the research you've done. It's not fun to sit there and talk about someone going, so I've researched this animal for weeks. Like, people don't want that. People want, I've gone to the store and I've bought this, and all the quick content. Like, I know those videos do better. Like, I'm narrating it in a way that I know that people are going to find more fun and exciting.
Yeah.
But with that generates the people who either don't follow me, don't click on my page, they've just seen that video, which, again, TikTok's great for putting your videos in front of new people, but if those new people are the wrong people, they take it the wrong way very, very quickly. And they don't understand anything. And yeah, videos like that is what I get the most conflicting, and people are arguing in the comments, and I'm like, yeah, I get it from an outside point of view for sure. And even me, if I saw something from someone who looked like they didn't know what they were talking about going to get a snake that is one day going to be 5 foot long. And then I think the argument again was the comments were saying, because I brought it home and it was in the travel container, and I, on film, removed it just the once from the travel container to then put it into its temporary quarantine enclosure. But from that person's point of view, they've seen she's just got this snake and she's handling it, and she's doing this and she's doing that. Whereas I'm like, if you look at my video 2 weeks ago, you'll see that I advocate for letting them acclimate for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if I need to pick them up and put them in the enclosure, I'm going to film it versus not filming it. So people get this 20 seconds of your life and take it into a whole nother, just take it completely out of context and make their own narrative, which sometimes I do understand it sometimes, but other times I'm like, just give me a break.
Well, they'll create a novel out of a sentence, literally. Like, you know, you give them a snippet and then they'll all of a sudden go, but I know the rest of it. You don't. You can assume as much as you want, but you don't. Like you say, at the end of the day, you needed to get that snake from the travel enclosure into the quarantine enclosure. What were you going to do? Just throw it in there from a distance,
and
like, you know, a 3-pointer, or tip it out? Yeah. And at the same time, at the end of the day, some of the stuff we do, like what we're doing right now, is content creation. Now, at the end of the day, as long as the animal's not being stressed out, you're going to get that animal and go, look at this beautiful snake that's about to go into quarantine, because that's just the way it is. Like, as long as you're not there going, here's my new snake that I've only just got today, look how beautiful she is, or he is. Do you know what I mean?
Pointing it at the,
yeah.
For sure.
Oh, look, she's striking at the camera and she's really upset with me. Ha ha ha. As long as you're not doing that. But unfortunately, people behind the screens are shit.
Yeah, they just don't put thought into what's actually happening. And as you said, like, the difference between me lifting it and putting it into a quarantine versus filming it was the phone in about an extra 5 seconds. And if you watch the video, I actually whisper when I take the snake out. So it's like, you can tell I'm like actively trying to, like, I'm not stressing this animal out for content. I have to do this. I'm whispering and saying, hey, look at this snake. And you're still, I actually called an animal hoarder on that video, which I made a response to, because I was like, I'm not. There's certain things you can call me, but that is ridiculous. But yeah, people will take that 30-second. It was 2 clips. I'm not getting a snake. I got the snake, and people went crazy. So, but yeah, people will take anything. I think TikTok's the worst for that, in just how quick it is, and people have a quick thought and they leave a comment and then don't realize the knock-on effect that can have, and sometimes just how stupid they're being, really.
Yeah. What's your sort of general feelings towards TikTok and the sort of, I guess, people that interact with you and like the platform itself in general?
I'm like, deep breath for that one. Honestly, TikTok, it depends on the day. Like, I do have days that I love it, and like, coming from a mutual ground point of view, I do appreciate what it's brought me. Like, I wouldn't have a following on any other platform if it wasn't for TikTok. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate it for the algorithm is so great on TikTok. It will put you in front of all new people every day. Like, as long as you're producing pretty good content, it's very good at putting you places that other platforms don't give you that exposure, right? Like, I don't know if you've experienced the same, but I could post something really great on YouTube, but if people don't know about me, people don't care. TikTok's really good at showing me to people, keeping me in the loop of people that care. Do all my followers see all my videos I post? No, probably not. But if people care enough, they can then find me elsewhere, and I owe what I have now to my TikTok. But the short form content does become quite straining in terms of explaining yourself, in terms of being able to explain what I want to explain within a short cap video. And for the last 6 months before starting my YouTube, I only had this 60-second video to explain, which can get very frustrating very quickly. And then people say, utilize the longer features. Not only did TikTok take that away and give that back all the time, so sometimes you don't even have the option to post a 10-minute video. Nobody watches a 10-minute video on TikTok. So then why am I bothering? Nobody's gonna, it's a short, quick platform. People, they lose interest very quickly. I'd even say anything over 30 seconds and you're losing people. And with that, getting across any information, which I try and provide some, is hard. And then people take what we were saying, a very short video, and turn it into the story that fits them, which a lot of the time is painting you out to be a bad person. People don't tend to take something and go, oh, well, maybe she meant well, or people look for a way to turn it into a negative narrative, which I don't understand. But it's hit or miss, that platform, for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think COVID helped, where people were stuck at home all day and were only allowed to interact online, because I think actually people then, when they came out of it, forgot how to interact with people. A lot of people started getting brave behind the screen and forgetting that actually there's other people on the other side of the screen, and it just has almost carried on. Like, people will just like, some of the comments are just awful. You know what I mean? Like, luckily for me, I've said before, they don't bother me, and I use them to my advantage because I annoy people and I basically get them to bite again because it helps boost my video. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I do. It's just the way me and George spoke about it on our podcast. But it's different if someone, do you know what I mean? Not everyone can deal with being told, for example, you're an animal hoarder or you're an animal abuser or what you're doing is disgusting and you're an impulse buying person. It can be pretty savage. Like, the internet never sleeps. It's a pretty savage place to be. And like you say, people aren't on TikTok to watch 10-minute videos. I think it's, if you haven't captured someone in the first, I think it's 8 seconds, the study said. If you haven't captured them in the first 8 seconds, they lose interest. Yeah. So how are you meant to tell people that you've researched the snake's husbandry for 6 weeks and it's something you've wanted for life and it's this and that and blah, blah, blah in 8 seconds? It's not going to happen.
And also, nobody really cares. When you do put stuff like that out, nobody wants to watch it because nobody cares.
But if you see this is my unboxing of a new snake, people go, oh,
yeah,
they're captured.
Exactly.
I want to see this new snake. But they don't know how long you've been researching that snake. All right, you could narrate over it or you could talk whilst you're doing it. But again, no one's really paying attention. They want to see the pretty snake.
Yeah. And with that comes the people who understand that there's more to it. And then there's people who just think that 30 seconds is your whole, you know. And I can deal with one of my most viewed videos is me responding to someone calling me an animal hoarder, where I basically read them the definition and showed them my enclosures one by one.
Yeah.
And people like that I don't mind so much because I know you're I don't know what you're trying to do, but it's not working for me. Like, there is nothing, you can't ever tell me I'm an animal hoarder because I can sit there and show you the definition and show you all my enclosures and that's the conversation ended. Like, and that person, I posted the video 2 minutes later, the comments down and they've removed their account because people were like jumping on them and like having a go at them and, you know. I can't tolerate the people that are like mean at me because they can't find something to moan about, so then they talk about my appearance or my gender or what I'm doing in my life, that I have enough time to film these TikToks, like, you know, all this other stuff, because they can't. What are you going to say about this enclosure? You know, they don't have anything, so then they jump to, okay, how can I hurt this girl? And I mean, it doesn't. I'm used to it enough that it doesn't bother me, and I have a thick enough skin that it doesn't bother me. It bothers me that people feel the need to do that, but you know, it kind of comes with the territory, and it's a shame you have to accept it if you're going to make videos online, that you're going to get people saying X, Y, and Z about you. It's a shame, but I've kind of come to the point where, you know, if you're going to post videos of your face, people are going to say things, and you know, they're just mad for whatever reason.
Literally, they're sad or there's something going on in their lives, and the only way that they can try and make themselves feel better is to try and bring other people down, which is a shame. Do you know what I mean? But it's just the way it is. It's interesting you say about, because this is one that I see fairly often, but I don't see it personally, obviously, because I'm not female. How often do you get comments about like the reptile hobby being for men and things like that? Is it quite prominent? Do you get it quite often?
Yeah, like enough for me to make a point out of it. I wouldn't say it's like enough that other people maybe notice, because people aren't scrolling and looking at the comments, but I get enough people. It's more, tell you when it comes up. It's not when I'm like holding a reptile or doing anything else. It's not when I'm doing that. It's when I say something that people don't agree with.
Yeah.
Then it's, you're a young female and you have no idea what you're talking about. And, you know, us, you know, it's females and this and that. And I've had like people say, people like thinking they're funny, just being like, just find a female hobby or find something that, you know, is better suited. And I'm like,
What does that even mean?
No, I'm like,
what
right.
does that
I'm like,
even mean?
I was like, can you name, what do you want me to do? Like,
Yeah.
I think that the same relies, like, obviously I only have experience with the reptile hobby, but the same happens with female footballers, right? The
Yeah.
people will tell them to just quit and give up, because when realistically the females this year have done a lot better than the males did in the World Cup. So, and people don't like that. And I think, again, yeah, people don't say that when I don't have an opinion. When I have an opinion is when they want to drag. It's my age and it's my gender, and that's like, people use that as a excuse for me not knowing anything, and I'm like, okay. And then people don't accept that either. I've made a video talking about how that's happened to me, and how even in person I'll go to reptile stores and it's predominantly men, and I've got used to that and I don't mind that. And I see women in there. I see a lot of women with their partners, but I do see women in there. And I've been spoken down to before. I've been spoken down to at expos. I've been spoken down to at stores, like people just thinking that, you know, you're there to just look at things. And I don't know whether they treat young men the same that they do me. Like, I don't get that, but sometimes it does feel very, you know. I remember the first time going into a reptile store ever, and it was me, the 2 men behind the counter, and like 6 men like in there chopping, and I was like, you know, okay.
Here we go.
This was a what? Yeah, I'm like, okay. But you know, there are women in the community, and I think there's more and more. There was a study recently about how many more women now are getting into the community, and I love to see it. And I get comments from people saying all the time that they love seeing like another woman on social media talking about reptiles. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to not like something because, you know, you're being told not to. But yeah, as I said, it's a lot of the time when people are upset with me. That's the main time that people have something to say.
It's again, it comes down to a lot of these like constructs, you know, like you, the example you made of football. Oh, it's a man's sport. It's a sport. It's not. It's not called men's football. All right, you've got men's football and women's football, but it's football. It's a sport.
The rules aren't any different.
You know, the reptile hobby. It's not called men's reptile keeping. It's called reptile keeping. Do you know what I mean? So, the point that you've made is very good, though, to the point of it's not a case of like doing it just to be shitty. It's almost like, well, how can I attack this person? Oh, I tell you what, let's go down that route. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, this person's wrong, but why can I say that they're wrong? It just, yeah. Do you
as
think?
I said, go on.
Do you think it's getting better? Have you seen improvements personally, or not really? Or
I don't think I've been online enough to, you know, I've only been online for, let's say, like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
I have seen that people, one of my mutuals on TikTok actually posted a video just talking about the relation between the amount of women getting into the hobby and the actual increase of the quality of care in reptiles, which I think is like amazing. Love to see it. I think there's a lot more. I think people think there's a lot more women in the hobby because of the representation we have online. I think a lot more, maybe you can shine some light, or I don't know, but a lot more women are a lot more confident to make videos and to talk on camera. You know, a lot more girls will make TikToks and talk and, you know, have fun with it. And men don't do that as much. So I think people will jump down the route of, well, no, there's plenty of women, like all the people I follow are women, but I don't see as many male creators. I would love to. In store, I see, like, I would say like an 80-20 split of like men to women when I go. Or even at expos, stuff like that, or like behind the counter, the breeders, I see mainly men. But yeah, I don't know what the relation is to me having something to say, and why then they have something to, you know. I've never had a comment on a video that I'm not talking about opinions, I'm not talking about care, I'm just showing something, or, you know, a silly video essentially, I've never had someone then say, you know, anything like anti-feminist on that. It's always when they don't agree with something that they'll find a way to shimmy in the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm like.
But the problem there is, instead of saying, right, here's the thing, you're wrong because X, Y, Z, here's a study that was done with this, and maybe you look into this a bit more, that you could probably go, all right, maybe someone's trying to help me better my care, better my husbandry, better my knowledge. But if someone says, no, you're wrong because you're a young woman, you cannot take that seriously.
No, I know.
There's no point. The conversation's dead. There's no, what does that do? Like, are you meant to all of a sudden go, am I?
Oh my God, you're so right.
Oh,
you
shit.
know what?
Right.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Flash sale. All animals must go because I'm a young woman, apparently, that doesn't know. I don't understand what it's meant to do. Yeah.
I'm leaving the hobby. I give up. I think as well, like it sucks to say it like this, but I think there's a very split down the middle reptile keeping opinion. And one is the very like new ethical keeping, and this kind of like, I feel like we're in it at the moment of really trying to increase the level of our care.
Yeah.
And then you have the 40-plus-year-old, like, as in they've been keeping for 40+ years, keepers who are very stuck in their ways. And obviously 40 years ago, there wasn't as many men as the community. And I don't want to stereotype, but the men who have the racks and they have the this and the, you know, and they want to find a way to dislike me. And because they can't combat me in an argument, and I've asked them before to do this and talk to me and let's have a conversation, and they don't want to do any of that. They want to leave comments about how I'm a woman and I don't know what I'm talking about. So at that point, you just give up with trying to.
Like I say, the conversation's dead. The conversation is, what are you meant to? Well, I don't know how you're meant to combat that. Okay, you're an old man. Then what? I don't understand. But, and also, like you say, like when they've been in it for that many years, it's a case of, but it's been working for me for this long. It may very well have been, but you can now do it better. No one's saying that you've been wrong. That may have been the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. All we're saying is that now, here's how you can improve. But a lot of people go, no, I've been doing it for 30 years like this, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of excuses that people use for never doing any more research, and it's time and amount of animals. People think that they've reached a certain amount of animals or a certain amount of years. That's me now. I'm top level. I can't level up anymore. This is me, and everyone else is wrong.
That's another interesting one. You've just reminded me of another one. I can't remember if you either touched on it or whether it was one that I just saw that you reposted, but I think it was a lady reptile keeper in America who basically said, oh yeah, I've got these 40 animals, these 40 reptiles. And the guy stitched it and was like, 40 animals, that's cute. I've got 150. And she was like, why does that mean you're better than me? Do you know what I mean? The amount of animals doesn't constitute how good you are at keeping animals.
It's funny when that, I know exactly what you're talking about. And so a couple of days before that happened, I put up a video that essentially was like promoting mutual female keepers, which a lot of people took offense to, I think, because I was saying that, you know, because I was just suggesting females, which, you know, whatever. But yeah, about a week before that video was posted, I made a video just tagging some of my like mutual females on the platform, saying that you know, they should go follow them and other people I like recommend. I think I added a caption along the lines of like, you know, representing other female keepers because, you know, we're hated on enough, or it was something along those lines. And I had comment after comment of men saying, you know, nobody's ever said that to you. This isn't true.
If we said this about men keepers, we'd be dragged through the mud. Or yeah.
If I was a man saying la la, and I'm like, 2 days after that, a very like good TikToker. She's like a mutual of mine, Lila, posted a video. A guy in America stitched it. Basically, it was just a passive aggressive talking down to video where he basically called her cute, called her amateur, said that, you know, oh, you basically can't know as much as I know. Spoke to her like she was a child as well, which was very much how I think it was horrible, and I felt bad for Lila, and that's why I like spoke up and responded to it. And I never normally do that for hate videos, but I think it was so important for other people to see a video, because normally people aren't that stupid. See a video,
you've got concrete evidence there.
Yeah, to see a video of how we're spoken down to, because to that point I can only, you know, provide screenshots to a certain amount of people speaking down to women. The whole narrative of this video was like, you know, you're just a woman in your house, you don't know what you're talking about, that's really cute, like that was the whole narrative. And I made a response to it on TikTok, and yeah, it was a shit situation. She didn't deserve that, but I was very much glad that I could finally be like, to all these people saying that women don't get spoken down to, I would love to have seen him say that to a full-grown man, because she's a 20-year-old girl in her room and she's incredible and amazing, but you know, she's a young woman, and he's I don't think you would have called a man cute for keeping less animals than you do. It was very much a just the whole narrative of the whole thing was crazy.
Very patronizing. Yeah,
that was all it was. And he didn't think that she would, you know, he thought she would, oh, sorry, but she didn't. And
she didn't,
you know, and it went very like pretty viral on like reptile TikTok.
And
I don't always respond to drama, but I thought that one was really important to talk about. And that was it was very good timing for all the people on my last post being like, nobody like speaks about like women like that. And I was like, look at this one, look at my next video. But that was a ridiculous, and he kept in like all these snake racks and everything else that came with it, and it was I put a bunch of screenshots behind me about his awful care, so the whole thing was ridiculous. But that was
to be fair, one of the biggest reptile TikTokers that I follow. I'm not sure if I ever get her name right. I don't know if it's Lisa's Reptiles or Lisa. She's in America. She's got a massive following. Lisa.
Yeah.
Amazing. There's no arguing. There's no arguing about, you know, the care and the husbandry and the knowledge. No one can go, you've got that wrong because you're female. But she does. I'm pretty sure she's done videos on it before as well.
She's definitely, I think as well, she goes to a few like of the American convention type things, and she'll do like she'll like essentially on a poll of people, there's only her and a few other like women, and she's the one who spoke about the study they did in relation to the amount of women in the hobby in relation to the increase of care. She's the one I saw that from, so she's like a big advocate for it as well. I don't think she has the time to respond to as many hate comments as I probably do, because she's putting out some great content. But
look, you've got someone else joining you as well.
Wanted to do her little debut in the podcast.
That's it. I think my dog's gone to bed by the looks of things. I don't think she's around at the minute. She had a long walk earlier on, so she's gone to sleep. But it's interesting. It really is an interesting. I'm really surprised me and George didn't speak about this, to be fair, but the majority of what we spoke about was social media as a whole in general. But I'm almost in actual fact, I think she reposted the same Stitch video. So I think that would have probably been an interesting one as well.
Yeah, she commented on the one that I posted, so I know that she's behind it for sure. But it shouldn't be something we have to speak about, but unfortunately it is. I think as well, like where people don't talk about it, people don't know that it's a thing until people post things quite that idiotic that we
well,
can
like you
then
say,
go
he
see.
exposed himself. Yeah, he exposed
Yeah,
himself
exactly.
and basically proved a point that people have been trying to argue.
Yeah,
The problem
I
is,
think it was good
it's
for us though, for
yeah,
sure. Like, I think for us to be able to, as women, have evidence to be like,
yeah,
when people say that people don't talk down to us and aren't patronizing,
mm,
I can just
yeah,
show you this video and be like, well, yeah, actually they are,
mm,
because people hide behind their screens and don't say that
facts.
to us.
Because the thing is that the problem is even though you've now got that irrefutable evidence, you will still find that people will still they'll ignore it. They'll completely ignore it and just continue saying to you that you don't get things like that and you're over exaggerating, blah blah blah. But because that's the problem, you could show someone evidence on anything. Do you know what I mean? I mean, off the top of my head, the flat Earth theory, you could show someone a picture of the globe and all of a sudden they go, no, 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 it's not true.
That's
No,
not
no,
right.
no, no, didn't happen, didn't happen. And that's the problem with social media and humans in general. A lot of the times they'll go, show me the proof, and you'll go, there it is, and they'll go, mm-mm, what do you want? What more do you want? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah,
I think, yeah, people want to see the proof for their own eyes because they don't want to trust anybody else telling them that this is what's happening.
mm,
And you can show them, yeah, like a video, a photo. You're like, oh yeah, but that's just one.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
like, well, this one is showing you what happens. And I'm not saying it happens every day, but it
yeah. Of
shouldn't
course,
happen, and it happens occasionally, and that's
yeah.
not. Um, but yeah, it was a whole thing, and he turned off his comments in the end, so
Oh, did he? Yeah.
we won that one. The
Mm,
I will say that is something I do like TikTok for, is I do have my little community of people who I do actually consider like friends. And yeah, okay, we'll probably never meet because we're on different sides of the planet, but as I said, I don't like to involve myself in drama too much, but when it's
mm,
stuff like that, I'm like,
let's go.
this is getting a stitch.
Mm,
Can't
yeah.
just let that one, even if it's just to let people see on my feed what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That's enough. That's enough
Yeah.
for me.
So, what's your opinions on social media in general? Then, so with regards to our hobby, what's your? Do you think it's a positive, a negative, both?
I do think it has its negatives. I think that, there are certain days where I'm like, I don't want to engage. I think it comes from negatives, but in general, for the hobby, I think social media is great. I think so many people get into the hobby because of social media. I know
Yeah.
a lot of my mutuals have watched people on, obviously, that's not personally how I got into it, but some of these big creators got people into reptiles, and I think it's so important that kids and future generations are getting into the hobby. So I do think social media in general in life is taking over how we get into things and learn about things. And I do want to say it's a positive, but I won't say it doesn't have its negative
Hmm.
bringings, especially for one of my really good friends on TikTok no longer does videos because of the way that people not only treated her, but I posted recently about this, but sending me like neglectful videos, and
Hmm.
there's a bunch of other stuff that comes with it that really does um dim it down, but it's still, for me, like, it's a very positive thing for sure. And I think you know I really respect some of the big creators that get some real, like, or even the little creators that get hate and still carry on posting their information and stuff. I think is really important for sure.
You're never going to please everyone. Sorry, that's the problem. Like, you could put out the best, most knowledgeable husbandry advice, care advice, and things like that could be pretty much perfect, but you will still get that certain amount of people that, even if they're not refuting your knowledge, they could just come in with the only good snake is a dead snake. That's all it
Oh, I've heard
takes.
that.
That's all it takes. You know what I mean? So it's tough, and by the looks of things, the bigger you get, the more those comments come in thick and fast. It just depends on how you deal with it and how you feel about them. Like I say, for me, water off a duck's back, I hear worse from my own friends than I do from strangers online, so I'm all right.
Oh yeah.
But I can see how it can put people off and make them stop posting and stop getting like engaging and getting involved, and it's a shame.
It's funny you say about your friends, because like I will say, like, my friends are supportive, they like whatever, but they don't get it.
Yeah.
And they think I'm strange and they think
Yeah.
I'm weird, and that's okay. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they can have that opinion. But I do feel a lot more seen on social media sometimes. I feel like a lot more people understand why I have so many animals. I have people come over to my house that I'm like, I don't want people to come over to my house that don't know that I'm in the hobby, because they're going to think I'm a lunatic. Like, why do you have this many animals? Like, what is the upsetting? They don't understand.
Yeah.
So I do feel very seen on social media some days.
Yeah.
And then other days, user 2347 tells me to release my snake into the wild. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
have pros and cons for sure.
Yeah, no, because to be fair, as far as I'm aware, Hog Island boas do really well in the UK climate.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm sure my banana morph royal would actually thrive. I'm
oh,
sure
absolutely.
nobody would hunt that down.
No, he'd be all right. He'd blend in. He'd be in the wild banana trees of the UK. Do you know what? One of the biggest things that really stuck out there was when you said, you know, like engaging and finding people in the same hobby that understand, that get it, that you can talk to about it. Because one, for example, nice little follower shout out to Dan, who's probably watching this. I was chatting to him a little while ago, and he was like, he loves that he found the reptile side of social media, because he loved reptiles, but his family and friends didn't. So he tried talking to his friends about this lizard that he got, or this snake that he saw online, and things like that, and blah blah blah. And everyone would just go, "Don't care. Why do you like these things?" And then all of a sudden, he's found this community where we all geek out about these animals, and he's loving life. You know what I mean? He can stick talking about football with his other friends now, but when it's a case of he's getting a new animal or he's seen this, he'll come straight to us and go, "Lads, have you seen this?" Or "Everyone, have you seen this?" And yeah, we have, and we're ready to talk about it for the rest of the day. So it's good. It helps connect people in the same hobby. Me and you, for example, you know, obviously we don't know each other that well on a personal level, but I don't know how many other hobbies and interests maybe we share. One that we definitely do is reptiles, which is why we've been already talking for nearly 2 hours about reptiles on social media. Do you know what I mean? So
I think
that's
it's
where the
great
positives
that
lie.
there are people that, like, I don't think me and you would have ever sat and had a 2-hour conversation had it not been our mutual interest. So I think for that reason, like, yeah. And again, like, my friends will tolerate it to a certain degree,
Yeah.
or ask me this question, but do they really care?
Yeah.
Like, do they really, you know, like, again, my mom, like, she's, oh, okay. Like, you know, when they're just nodding and smiling along because they want to be polite. And
Yeah.
I used to like information dump and like want to just talk constantly about, and you know, like, people will nod and smile and listen to a certain extent, and then it's like, okay, well, they don't really care. So then you're stuck, you know, talking to yourself, especially me before I had TikTok, just kind of pondering about it to yourself and not really you know, as well, even with like care, I think my care has definitely improved, having had conversations with people and being a part of groups and
100%.
conversations that drive you to
100%.
do better. I think for that aspect, for sure, it's great. I don't think we have enough to compare ourselves to in real life.
Yeah.
There's not enough of us for
No.
sure.
I mean, it's funny because I've been being brought to a realization myself. So I know for a fact that I like chasing new highs. Like I'm going to get a new animal, and all of a sudden I'm up here, I'm buzzing, I'm excited. I've got this new animal. I'm going to put it in this enclosure, this and that, and blah blah blah. But then sometimes I need to remember that I've still got snakes in racks that need to be put in bigger, enriching enclosures. And sometimes it takes people that know better to bring me back down to earth and say, chill, like relax. Because there's like in the last podcast with myself and Paul, we were chatting, and essentially he said, you know, if you've got a Viv, you can have an Ackie monitor. And I'm there going, yeah, sweet, blah, 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 would love to. I'm going to get an Ackie, this and that. And I think it was the one after that he went, but hang on a second. He said, if you're getting a new 4x2x2, have you not got an animal already that could go in there? And I was like, oh, I guess so. And he was like, well, why don't you do that? That frees up the 4x18 by 18 you've got, and then a snake can go in there. So it will go from the rack to a 4x18 by 18. He was like, and not get the Aki. And obviously, like, I'm always open to the point where it might even make me look like a twat. Part of me was like, well, yeah, but that means I don't get an Aki. You know what I mean? I'm like, but it's a new animal. But then once I sat down and spoke about it, and it occurred to me in my head, and I spoke to myself about it. I'm not obviously sat there out loud like we are now going, Andrew, maybe do this, or, you know what I mean? Once I thought about it, the idea goes, they're right. This is exactly it. And this is what happens when you surround yourself with people that will help you do better. It's like, now, I would love a baby Aki from Paul. I would love one. But my beardie needs a bigger enclosure. Like, she's not the biggest beardie in the world, but she needs more space. She's going to get an upgrade, and a snake is going to get an upgrade from that as well. And then we build from there. So, and without social media and without these groups, these people that I've met, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I did watch that. I watched the podcast with you and Paul, and I think it's very, it's good to see that, like, almost like challenging aspect. Like we spoke about Lila earlier. It's funny because a lot of people don't take criticism well, or don't want to talk about things and have a discussion. And the way me and Lila actually met was she responded to a video that I made, essentially speaking about licensing in the hobby. And I kind of said that my standpoint, you know, there was a bunch of other stuff to it, but essentially saying that I would like to see something along the lines of, you know, some sort of certificate, some sort of license. You can talk about that if you want. But essentially, she completely disagreed with me. And that was fine. And, you know, we had a conversation about it. We stitched each other's videos. We then spoke about it. And we're now very good friends. And I respect her opinion. And I respect where she was coming from with that. And I get that knowledge from that. I'm not gonna completely disregard, well, you don't agree with me, we're not friends, you know. I think them people that challenge your questioning better your care, for sure.
100%,
and yeah, it was
100%.
I think someone as well was saying something online, you sometimes question, I know Paul was saying to you, I was watching, about people say that 4x2x2s are okay for Aki monitors, but then if you talk to someone with an Aki monitor, they'll tell you they'll use like every inch of it. And hearing him talk about it, I'm like 100%. That is literally exactly what I did. I got an Aki monitor. I had a 4x2x2. I was looking at it. I was looking at him, and I was like, I can't. And did the exact same thing that he did. And I was like, I read online, didn't know any better, did it, and then in my head was like, yeah, I want to do bigger. I want to do better. So I think having those people to talk to and compare your experiences to is so important. And even like if you don't want to engage directly, you know, there's people who don't want to, you know, make videos like we do. Even seeing other people talk about it and talk about their real life experiences, like 100% helps the animals, for sure.
Yeah. Of course it does, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here for our animals, whether it's to ethically breed them or just keep them as pets in an environment they can thrive in. It's why we're here. So if someone comes to you and says, look, you can do it better by this and that, it's important. Like, you know, the conversation needs to be had. And that's why I quite like this. This was one of the biggest reasons why I made this podcast, is because I wanted it to be a space where everyone can basically share whatever opinions they've got without knowing they're going to get judged by me, especially like in the comments. I can't promise you that people will agree with everything we've said, but the conversations need to be had, because that's how things progress. That's how we do better as humans and animal keepers.
Yeah, I think one of the worst things we can do is not I'm not talking about people being nasty, but like the constructive criticism or conversations. As I said, as someone who, like, if you didn't know that you and Paul were friends, watching that conversation, you could be like, oh, you know, he's saying this, he's saying that. But like the conversations do need to be had. And it's the exact same with me and Lila. Like, we hadn't spoke before she mentioned, you know, slightly different because she's an American and I'm in the UK, so the licensing, and you know, we would have different opinions from that side of it. But yeah, she had a polar opposite opinion, and we're friends now. So it's like,
and that's fine.
People who completely shut down any opinion that isn't their own, that damages the community, for sure.
No, I agree. it's stubbornness. That's what it comes down to, and it has a selfish effect as well. Like, this is what I mean. Like, the second someone sees something that they don't agree with, a lot of the time they'll turn defensive and go, no, but I'm right, you're wrong, I'm not listening, blah blah blah. And it's not the way it should be. Like, I'm happy for anyone to call me out on what I do and what I say, because you're either right and I can learn from it, or you're wrong and I can show you why. But at the end of the day, someone's going to benefit from that.
Yeah, even if it's like, just understanding another person's point of view, for sure. I mean, I kind of, on social media, it can be a bit difficult, and I kind of say to people, it can be quite difficult to force, and I keep myself out of it now, but forcing opinions on people's care on social media. And a lot of, TikTok can be quite difficult for that, in terms of people leaving comments to just say, this is rubbish, you need to do this, this, and this. And if anything, that puts people's guards up, right? Because if someone comes at you, attacking you for what you're doing, and I've probably played my own part in that. If someone comes at you saying nothing you're doing is right, you need to do this, this, and this, from not an understanding point of view at all, they're 10 times more likely to completely ignore what you're saying, either block you or tell you to F off. And then you've not helped them, you've not helped yourself, you've not helped the animal. I will very rarely leave a comment, and if I do, it's on people who I can tell care. For example, a girl recently on TikTok, bearded dragons, beautifully taken care of, amazing, but she had her heat bulb and her UVB separately. So I left a comment and was like, hey, not sure if this was a mistake or not, just wanted to let you know, you actually need to overlap them to best mimic the sun. And she replied, oh my god, thank you so much, appreciate that. That's all the interaction needs to be. Whereas if I had have approached that from a level of what a lot of people do, which is why are you leaving your light in like that? That's not the way
you're
you should do it, blah, blah,
shit. Yeah.
Then what are they going to do? Because if anything, they're going to dig their heels in and say, well, no, I'm going to do it like this now. Because you've made a scene out of it.
Yeah.
And then you end up damaging the knock-on effect. Then people watching that video think that that's normal because they haven't changed anything. The knock-on effect it has is crazy. To just be nice to people and just have a bit of compassion when it comes to, we all start somewhere. I think that's another thing with social media is that people need to chill with, for sure, is leaving those really quick, nasty comments that for sure.
I mean, obviously we'll start doing some sort of wrap up questions now, but with regards to your social media and obviously where you started it, did you have a vision of where you wanted it to go, what you wanted to do, or was it just a case of you just wanted to make some nice videos and see what happens?
Honestly, I think to start with, it was a bit of fun. And then I started getting questions. And then with the questions came the, I can actually help people now. And
so it's evolved almost.
Yeah, I think for sure. It started off as a little hobby. I mean, I've made videos in the past for unrelated things. I've kind of always wanted to make content, but not really had a passion good enough to make videos. And I think having those first few people ask, I'm very much by the motto, if I post a video and it helps one person, I'm good with that. And if it helps that person help an animal, even better. And just kind of take into when I would want to do my research, I'm very much a video instead of a reader. I'm trying to read something is hell to me. So having someone voice what to do, and I, not that I saw a gap, because I definitely, there are other people who do it just as well, if not better than I do, but seeing how much it helped selective people was what drove me to do it more and more, for sure. Because I think the more people that spread the right information, the better. You can't get enough people, for sure. And just the amount of people who online don't do it well and then think that that's the norm, and then you're multiplying. So I think it's definitely turned more educational, and me trying to help people then when it started as like a fun little TikTok video.
Yeah. Have you got sort of plans from now then of where you want it to go, or are you just sort of riding the wave?
I mean, to be fair, it's going well. Like TikTok, I'm kind of like, I'm keeping with TikTok in terms of I want to like still meet new people. You know, I've met some great friends. I mean, technically, I wouldn't have met George, wouldn't have met you, wouldn't have met so many other people that I follow and speak to now. If it wasn't for TikTok. But I'm kind of switching over to longer form now, so I'm regularly posting on YouTube, which I find is a lot more. It's easier to explain, it's easier to talk, like it's easier to actually explain my points and people actually stick around to watch it. So I definitely like to focus that on there and kind of turn all of my TikToks almost into YouTube videos. So getting all my little care guides, 60-second things or like tours of my enclosures onto YouTube so that people can sit and I can explain things properly and explain the pros and the cons and the different options and you know.
Well, you can elaborate a bit more. You know, that's what we were saying about TikTok. The second you start trying to say, here's why I do this because of this and that, people go boring. But a lot of the time, you know, YouTube is it's basically a search engine. If people type in how to care for blue tongue skink, and you've got a video, let's just say, for example, you did a care guide on blue tongue skinks, they're not going to see that it's a 12-minute long video and go boring. They're going to click on it and they're going to watch it. So I think that's where the positives lie in YouTube for sure.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think all of my successful TikTok videos that people left questions on and I couldn't answer, I kind of want to throw onto the YouTube side of it for sure. Like I'm not going to keep posting on TikTok. I have some like exciting stuff coming up. I'm actually doing a partnership with Arcadia soon, which is going to be really, really exciting.
Are you really? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's
cool.
happening in thank you. Yeah, I got on a call with them last week. Again, just working together. I don't get, you know, other than their information and their products, I don't get anything. I'm not getting paid to do it, but to teach people what the right and the wrong is, and even jumping on a call with them for half an hour was so interesting. So for me to be able to relay that information I'm over the moon about that. So yeah, putting that into TikToks, into YouTube videos, the more information I have, the more that I can put out into. Okay, it's difficult for me to put a half-hour video call with one of the like top people at Arcadia, trying to relay that into a TikTok, but I can better my information, and the more I can do that, the better content I can provide. So
yeah, of course,
that's kind of what I'm focusing on. But yeah, I definitely do want to shift more into. I've kind of been doing that the last couple of months, filtering out and putting more effort into my YouTube for sure. Because yeah, as we both said, that is where you can actually put some information or put some like something behind it other than a really quick trying to grab your attention, because it's a hoax at the end of the day. You're trying to suck people in, and that is the whole thing of it. It's not you don't always. I can still put a TikTok out, but then I can be like, if you want to learn more, I have a 20-minute video over on my YouTube, whereas I didn't used to have that. So then that's definitely where my focus is at the moment for sure.
Nice. Right, so we could, again, it's one of those that we could probably go on for even longer. Again, maybe we'll have to get you back on again at some point. My last question, which is probably quite a fun one, and then I'll see if you've got any questions for me. Who, out of all of your animals, the furry ones, the scaly ones, the amphibians, whoever, who is the easiest to care for and who is the hardest to care for? So only one of each.
Oh, easiest and hardest. You know
but
what?
That could be like who requires the most attention or the most varied diet, or who's just the most chilled and easy to get on with.
Okay, hardest. And this is what when people leave comments about my room being smelly and stuff because my reptiles, or how do I have this much time? My hardest is my dogs.
Yeah.
100%. Every single time. Like, literally here with me on my lap, attention all the time. Like when people say about time, like I do understand, like reptiles do take time, and
Yeah.
again, the smells of the enclosures are more like plants than anything bad. But that is a hate comment that people like to leave about the smell, and my dogs take up so much of my time. From you can't leave the house for a certain amount of time. Like, I can leave my reptiles for overnight, a weekend.
Yeah.
So my dogs are up there, and it as well, like expense. I know you didn't say expense, but my dogs cost me as much as all of my other animals too. In terms of my Labrador is like 40 kilograms, so and I raw feed as well, so she like eats me out of house and home. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
She probably eats like more money than I do a day, which is ridiculous. In terms of least though, least would definitely be like one of my snakes, I reckon. I kind of touched on it earlier, just how low maintenance they are. I'd say at the moment, because my hog island and my corn snake are so young, that they take a bit more, I'm actively really handling them, feeding them more often. But probably like my royal python or my milk snake, in terms of if I, for whatever reason, didn't want to handle them for a full week, they don't care. Doesn't affect their life. And
try not stroking a dog for a week.
Imagine not taking the dog out, or imagine leaving the house for more than 5 hours. My chihuahua would have a breakdown. So I'd say probably one of my snakes. There are a few like reptiles that fall kind of into that low maintenance, but I think snakes, like every 5 to sometimes 2 weeks or more if they're a really big snake, for sure. So if I chose, it's selfishly, if I want to handle them, that is I'm adding time, and obviously cleaning them out. But it's not the same as like my bearded dragon makes a mess. Like my bearded dragon would be in my top of reptiles, not in animals overall. But in comparison, my snakes don't do anything. They just my royal python just chills. She has a whole, I mean, still a baby, so she's still getting fed quite often, but
of course,
still in comparison to other reptiles, I have other ones that like twice a day you need to be doing something. I mean, you can set up automatic systems and stuff. I don't do that, but so I'd say dogs
up
and
top.
One of the snakes probably, probably my royal python.
There's a few in between as well. Excellent. Right, first one, have you got any other topics you wanted to bring up at all?
I mean, I wrote down some questions for you.
If you've got questions for me, I'm more than happy. We can get into questions for me.
But let me. I don't think I have. There wasn't any topics. I thought we'd just kind of see what got back. But of course, I wrote some. Oh, actually, I did have one topic we didn't touch on.
Cool.
Just about, and I mean, like you obviously went through. I mean, you went through your breeding aspect, but I thought it was very interesting to talk about like gatekeeping.
Oh yeah.
And people keeping information to themselves, and like what your experience has kind of been with that, especially being someone who's, I think, like just the little knowledge I have on royal python breeding, the complexity of it and how many hundreds of morphs there are, how you found I try and actively be the opposite of gatekeeping in terms of anything I know you can have it. But with social media, we've obviously touched on quite a bit the whole side of gatekeeping in the community and how people will always, it does tie, I think, quite a lot into breeding, but I think it does in social media in general, that people will keep things to themselves. And what your thoughts were on that?
It's prevalent for sure. You do see it. Even if I haven't dealt with it that much, you do see someone will ask a question on like one of these big creators, or even sometimes not even big creators. They'll just ask a question and it will just get the most vague, basic, simple answer that doesn't really answer it. You just sort of look at it and you go, you've done that on purpose. Like sometimes you can tell if someone's gone, oh yeah, it's only this and that. Maybe it's a basic answer. But I've seen times before where they're like, oh, you know, I don't know, what are the best signs for seeing when a monitor lizard is ready to breed or something like that. It's a lot more complex than, I don't know, she's fat. Do you know what I mean? There's more to it. I don't know it that well. You know what I mean? I'm still researching myself anyway. I'm still watching other videos. But I've seen it before where people are like, oh, yeah, there's a few things you got to look out for. And they just leave it at that. You're like, that's fine. But what you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, because that person could go, you know, DM me or here's a video I've done about it. But it's not, because there are times where people want to be the only ones breeding a certain species. And if they've got it dialed in and they see someone else is trying to do it, they'll go, well, I have to figure it out myself. So you've got to do it now as well.
That is what it is.
Yeah. Instead of being like, right, this may not be the be all and end all and the perfect way of doing it, but I did it by doing this and that. They'll go, yeah, no, it took me years to do. It took me years to figure it out.
Good luck.
And that's it. You're like, so how are we meant to? So, for example, roughneck monitors, they're not captive bred in the UK. They're just, I think maybe once they've been captive bred in the UK. The rest of them are all wild caught. So I'm not saying the guy that has bred them is gatekeeping, but let's just say they managed to do so consistently. The hope is that if he knew of anyone else or anyone who's breeding roughnecks was to know, right, here's how I've dialed it in to all my people that want to do so that we can stop bringing in wild caught ones and have captive bred. Here's how I did it. But a lot of the times you won't get that because people go, well, I've put the work in, so should you.
Exact same with like when I was saying about my emerald tree skinks versus my crested geckos. I'm very confident with my crested geckos. People are a lot more willing to share, and to be fair, there's a lot more people I'm friends with who give me information.
Yeah.
When it comes to my emerald tree skinks, I'm still hoping for the best. Like I have, you know, listened and done what I can online, but in terms of people in the UK doing it that want to share with me, nothing.
Have you ever seen, there's a lady in Canada who I'm pretty sure breeds emerald tree skinks.
I know the
have you seen that one? She's in Canada and I'm almost certain she breeds them. I just wonder if maybe, because I've actually spoken to her before, just briefly replied to a story and we've chatted and things like that. Maybe she might be willing to speak to you about it, to be fair, because she doesn't come across as a
definitely no, definitely after this, send her to me. I mean, I've seen in America there's I think it's the bio dude. He's made like a few videos about emerald tree skinks. I think they're a bit more readily available over there. So it's like I have got my information, but I've had to dig deep for it. And there's nobody that I can speak to on like a level to give me that information. I think it's so I don't want to understand where people are coming from with it. Like I get it might be frustrating from your point of view if you're doing all this research. People have said it to me on TikTok, but it's because TikTok comments are so short that I can't give you an answer. So people leave like a comment asking for any like tips on this, that, and the other, and I've only got 150 characters to answer you. But a lot of the time I will say like, you know, DM me if you want to jump over, you know, whatever. But it's one of those things. The only reason I want to touch on it is because of how angry it makes me. I'm like, the animals are suffering, and a lot of the time I think, especially with breeding projects, people are super secretive.
Massively.
Especially when it comes to, you know, generating these morphs. And I get it from their point of view of how many years it's taken to get to that, but what happens when new people join and they're endlessly creating mass-produced animals and morphs that aren't going to be placed anywhere because they're making people start from step one instead of helping them jump onto the step that they're on. So then you get overproduced animals. And that's when I'm like, because they don't want to share because they've spent years, and like, okay, I do get it, but at the same time, you're going to make someone else start from step one and overproduce and overpopulate trying to get it right. rather than just sharing that information with them, which
a lot of the time they want to be that guy. They want to be the one. Do you know what I mean? They want to have that. It's almost like a badge of honor. It's almost like, I was the only one who's done this. I'm the first one who's done this. I've done. Do you know what? And instead of using that almost like a discovery and knowledge and sharing, going like, I've managed this and here's how I did it, they go, I'm the one that did that.
It was me. Nothing else to it.
All right. Now what? Is that it? Is that all you wanted? But sometimes it is. That's all they want, is the recognition that they're the only one who's done it and that no one else has done it yet. If I, let's just say in the future, because it's not going to happen anytime soon, I managed to breed roughnecks. They are apparently very difficult to breed in captivity, right? Because no one really knows. Sorry, go on.
Is Ragnar captive bred or wild caught?
Wild caught.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very, very rare. In the UK, especially, very, very rare to have captive bred roughneck monitors, which is why if I was to ever manage to breed them, let's just say I got dialed in to the point where I could get consistent eggs a few times a year, I would love to help spread that information, because it would be for the betterment of the animal, because you've got less being taken out of captivity. They're going to be healthier. You're going to know, they're probably going to be more handleable. Maybe not, because they can be psycho. But you know what I mean? Like, there's only positives with captive bred animals. This could be a whole podcast in itself, was the captive bred versus wild caught. But it's true.
Don't get started.
You know what I mean? If I was to ever get to the point where I dialed in the breeding of roughnecks, I'd be more than happy to help people out. Do you know what I mean? Because it's only going to be positive for everyone else. Now, if you look at it from a selfish standpoint, I would still, if this is what I wanted, I would still be that guy. There can only be one person who does it first. So it would still have, it's not because someone else has done it, but let's just say it was me. I would still be the first guy that did it. But that doesn't mean I have to keep it to myself.
A great example of that is, so Lily's Exotic, just with my cresty knowledge, Lily's Exotics in the UK actually discovered the lily white morph.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't keep it, like, they kept it to themselves while they proved out what the possibilities were, but they didn't share it and like make people go all crazy trying to figure out how to do this rare morph. They didn't do any of that. They kept it complete to themselves until they proved out every option.
Yeah.
Which meant that they already knew that a lily white to a lily white was non-viable. It would produce like babies that wouldn't hatch right or would live a very short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they did come out with the information, they'd done it all. They gave everyone the information and it gave them that boost of everyone knows who Lily Exotics is, especially within the crested gecko community. We all know who they are. It boosted all of their. I don't even think you can get a crested gecko from them anymore. I have a few that are like passed down from them, but they're known across the UK as producing the lily white. But they did that in a way that they gave the information. They didn't release it before it was time, as in like to get themselves the clout and the attention. They didn't send everyone into a spiral of, oh my god, let's figure out how to make this morph and overpopulate the crested gecko community. They proved it out. They did what they needed to do, and when they had enough that they were happy to sell on and to pass on the information, they put on their website an essay of everything that they did and what they proved, and that people wouldn't make the same mistake of breeding them and producing eggs that weren't viable.
Yeah.
Perfect example of you can still get that attention and you're still doing a good job without being a gatekeeper, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is prevalent. It is still happening. I think it will continue to happen. I don't think it's one of those things that will ever go away. But it's just the way that comes down to human nature and just the way that some people are. Unfortunately, it's the biggest answer to it is it's just the way it is. Unfortunately, like, we can get angry, we can try and stop it, we can try and change it, but if someone's that stubborn that they go, no, I'm the guy, you need to do it yourself, that's what it is. Yeah,
I think like with most other hobbies, obviously it doesn't have an effect on anyone but other people. I think the only difference for us, obviously, it has an effect on the animals, which is why I get angry. But
yeah. I get that.
People won't change, so
no.
we can talk about it. We can try.
Yeah. It's all we can do at the end of the day. You know, it's that age-old saying: you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. You know, I mean, like I say, Paul said that to me a few times. It's true. He's tried leading me in the right direction, and sometimes I go, well, hang on a second, but sometimes these things you got to figure out for yourself. But some people will have already figured it out, but will still be set in their ways and go, don't care. I know that this is wrong, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think if people know that there are other people out there that will help and will talk about it, they'll keep looking versus just going, all right, fuck it, I'll just look at myself and you know.
There are. I think there are always people that are willing to help. It's just it might take you a bit longer to find them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I didn't know about Paul until you were like, obviously met you for TikTok and everything else. I don't know if he has TikTok.
He doesn't. No.
He needs to get on the TikTok hype. But you were posted about him, followed him, and then all this monitor information comes, and he actively talks in your podcast about how he'll basically reply to everyone and anyone about monitors. And you know, I would have never known about that. So it's about keeping looking for people who are willing to share that information, because there's definitely people out there for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Right.
But yeah, that was it from me.
Excellent. Do you have any questions for me? Well, you already said you do. So what are your questions for me?
I did write a couple down. Of course, I would love to know, taking money, space and time out of the equation, what your dream animal would be. I always find this one or maybe like one that's like realistic, and one that's like space time, you know. Anything's possible.
The realistic,
I think I know the answer to this after
the first one that came to mind, I think, is the Brazilian rainbow boa. That's the realistic. Or the Aki. Those are two that are very high up on the list that are realistic. I wouldn't. There is one that is. It's possible, but it's a lot more difficult. Like an Aki, you can pick up fairly cheap. A Brazilian rainbow boa, they're not that expensive. What are they? 100, 200 quid, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, someone I know was like £90. So. Aki I got for free as well.
Yeah.
Two relatively. It's just the enclosures for both of those.
Yeah, of course. I tell you what, no, if we're making it realistic, because it's a feasible amount of money, a green tree monitor is top of the list but obviously they're over £2,000 a piece. I think I don't know if they still are, but that's not an animal that you can sort of pick up on the fly. Like it's again big enclosure, there's a lot involved, they're monitors. But for me, reptile wise, the pinnacle that is expensive, as well as obviously because that is a doable amount of money. Like I'm not rich, I couldn't afford one now, but
saving and putting time,
if I was to scrimp and save, things like that, build my own enclosure, then it's still possible. So I'd put green tree python top of that. Green tree monitor top of that list. Money, time, space, all of that out of the window. I've got unlimited all of it.
This is always the interesting one, because you get to see what people's real. I feel like you're more into monitors than.
Are we talking just reptiles or animals in general?
No, I'd say reptiles. Let's keep it, because otherwise it could go anywhere.
Time, money, space, no object. Well, the one that the only problem is money, time, and space don't really affect it. I adore things like the venomous reptiles, but I wouldn't keep them. So it sort of doesn't, like, again, money, time, space, things like that, I think would come into it. But at the end of the day, I could be as rich as I want.
If it was like endless.
Yeah. Oh, this is tough doing it just reptiles as well. I am a big fan of like the big heavy set crocodilians. I just think they're incredible. Like, and if I had the space to basically have a swamp as such, or like, do you know what I mean? Like a setup.
Do you follow that guy on TikTok who goes into the Florida Everglades?
I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
honestly one of my favorite people ever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
watching his videos, I'm like, people think I'm crazy. I'm gonna forward on this guy's videos because these massive alligators. Like, I get the fascination. I don't know if I'd ever.
Whether I'd get in the like get in and scoop their poo whilst they're just free roaming, I don't know. If it was to the point where I could, do you know what I mean, like have like almost like a separate enclosure that you get them into, shut it, and then you can go and clean, that's fine. Like, I don't think I'd have the bravery to go in and just like it was fun enough redoing Ragnar's enclosure and letting her free roam, and she's only 3 feet long. You know, that was fun. Imagine trying to do that with like a 15-foot alligator or crocodile or something. Like, that sneaks up on you.
Just tempt them into somewhere else. There's not.
Yeah,
you can't. No,
they're up there. They are cool, or possibly a big snake. Like, I was going to say an anaconda, but I think the retics are stunning. But I would only keep a retic in an enclosure that you could get lost in, basically.
Yeah.
I think I'll go with, I'll go with those, I think.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say like big snakes. I think I mean, also someone to handle with me kind of stops me from owning anything over 6 foot. I'm pretty tall, but I'm not that. I'm not that built.
No.
That anything over 6 foot is kind of just ruled out automatically.
No, none of us are.
No, I agree with.
If we tried single-handedly looking after a berm or a retic or an anaconda, you're in for a bad time if they're not in the mood. So yeah, it definitely have to be with 2 people. Like, for me, it'd be my brother-in-law, because he's the other side of Riddler Reptiles. If we were in the position, we'd probably consider something like that, to be fair.
Yeah, you need a couple hands.
Definitely.
Yeah, that is my only kind of, if I was to say, like, I'd talk about big snakes, but I just don't think any large species, unless you're endless in money, time and space, they just can't, they're not kept properly. I'd love a Burmese python, but where the hell?
That needs a bedroom to itself. Yeah,
people with the iguanas that have their own bedroom. I'm like, I don't have. Not for the next 10 years. Never want to say never, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
The only other one I have.
I'm still really thinking it, because obviously now that this come to mind, I'm thinking, well, what about a Komodo dragon or a Parenti monitor? I'm like, there's so many, but I don't. That's a really tough question. It really is.
It also, you can spiral into like Komodo dragons, but then how much knowledge is there on captive bred? Like, would you want to ethically do that? But then if you had endless time, money, and space, it is a very it's a difficult question.
It is. It really is. But it's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think for me, it's like money. Again, you can save if you really want something. You can save and you can take the time. Space, again, if you really want something, you can maybe make the space. I mean, not all, that one's a bit 50-50, but for me, it's like time.
Yeah.
How much time do I have to spend with this, like, huge animal that takes up all this, That's always the one that's more, the ethical question is always the time and the space.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Komodo, I mean, I'd love a Komodo dragon, but I don't know if you'd find a reptile on them.
Probably not, no.
Probably wouldn't be on any of my hair guys. The only other question I have, well, I have 2 more.
Okay.
So one of them is just if you have any future plans for your social media or your animals, or just what you have coming up.
Do you know what? This podcast has started not getting more attention, but it's been doing a lot better than I was expecting it to. Like, my plan was to just sort of every now and again, if I could find a guest, just because I like talking to people and it's good fun, maybe I'll just get one out every now and again, you know. But as it stands, I already have 3 more guests lined up. But that's.
Are you going to say who they are? Or you can maybe tell me off of this.
I'll tell you off of here. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you off of here. But I wasn't expecting it, because I was thinking the reason I didn't want to start one, because I was like, but how many, you know, if I do one, I've then got to really try and find someone who's going to be willing to come on and talk to me about reptiles. But it's actually, I've had people say, can I come on your podcast? I'm like,
yeah,
really? Yeah, sound. Yeah, I mean, like, it's really cool. But so I might do a little.
I don't think there's enough reptile podcasts, honestly. I mean, I listen. The only other one I can think of is Animals at Home, and I actually listen to that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think there's definitely a gap for reptile podcasts for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised people want to come on and talk.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's good fun. I mean, we've been chatting for over 2 hours already. Do you know what I mean? And I've already said that we might have to get you on again, because we've barely scratched the surface. So it's good fun. You know what I mean? It's really. So I think there's going to be a bit more to go into my podcast, especially now that I've got this new software as well, which is quite good. Obviously, me and Paul have got our joint venture, which is obviously True Tales. With regards to the rest of the social media,
I think that's fun to do it with someone else as well.
Yeah. Well, because
you
can
just
always
keep it like the two of you.
I think we might have guests every now and again. The majority of the time will be just me and him, because we can talk for hours. Like, we voice note each other fairly often. And at one point in that last live, it felt like we were just voice noting, but in front of everyone, which is why we quite liked it, and hence the name Unfiltered, because we were just talking as if no one else was in the room. I think we will get guests on at some point, but a lot of it will be just myself and Paul. So I think I'll be doing a little bit more with regards to the podcast. With regards to the rest of social media, I need to, well, not that I need to, but Instagram and TikTok have recently been taking a bit of a backseat for me, only because I get annoyed at it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll post a video and it will get next to no views, and I'm like, well, what's the point? But I know I know that it needs to be good content, which I don't think my stuff is bad, but it needs to stand out. And B, you need to be consistent. Like, are you all right? Like, I've started getting more views and likes and comments on my Instagram reel because I'm posting daily, as opposed to posting once every 2 weeks, which seems captain obvious.
People say like post every 2 to 3 times a day. I'm like,
I couldn't do that again. I used to, but I couldn't do 2 to 3 times. I haven't got the time. You know what I mean? I've just, whether I'm at home or at work, especially at home, I've got so much to do. With, obviously, we've got a house, we've got a 1-year-old child. I've got, you know, there's not enough time to be posting 2-3 times a day. I need to do a little bit more with regards to that. But my YouTube, I think I said to you the other day, I watched my first ever YouTube video the other day, and the progress and the difference already in about 18 months has been ridiculous. So I just want to keep that up. I want to be going from level to level to level, and just, I'm still doing it for me and I'm still enjoying it. Like, I've not lost the love for YouTube. I really enjoy filming and editing and posting. And now that I do the live premieres as well, like, obviously this will be a live premiere, it's really nice and I really enjoy it. So staying consistent on YouTube and just bettering myself, hopefully, with every single video, essentially. Maybe start trying to be a bit more educational. One thing I did touch on with George was that I almost feel like I don't have the right to try and be educational, because maybe I'm not that knowledgeable. But I don't know. I think maybe that I'm putting myself down a little bit there. So I don't know.
I was going to say, I could go on a whole podcast about how I beat myself up about not thinking I know anything. So until someone tells you like how much you're helping them when you post something that just comes to mind, and then you're like, oh my God, actually I do know more than I think I know. So any information that you have and that that's the only thing I do, is I will fact check. Yes. And as long as I know that what I'm giving out is correct, then or like at least the best I know at the time, because obviously it's always changing. It's always new.
Of course.
I think that's definitely the inner telling you that you don't, because I get that for sure. I'm like, oh, should I really be telling people how to do things? Like But they don't
At
have
least,
to listen
yeah.
to you. It's on their own, you know.
At least when I'm doing entertaining stuff and stuff that's fun, like feeding Ragnar and things like that, it's not. But then, do you know what? In saying that, my most viewed video is the Roughneck Care Guide video. That's the only video I've got that has got 2,000 plus views. Everything else, I think I've got maybe one other that's over 1,000 views, and the rest, they're doing quite well, don't get me wrong, but that's the only video is my Roughneck Care Guide that's over 2,000 views. So that doesn't mean, the amount of views doesn't mean that I've got it all perfect. I know that in that one it's not all perfect, and I'm hoping to do another one because I've improved the care since again. But maybe I am too harsh on myself, and maybe the care guides are, if, like you say, I fact check and I know what I'm talking about, then maybe it is something that I can get into as well.
I think for me, I put off YouTube for at least 6 months because I was waiting for the next thing to be perfect. And I was very much like, everyone was always asking me to do a room tour on TikTok, and I was like, I'm not going to do that because I want to wait for it to be the way that I want it to be. And when I do, I'll do it on YouTube, and that will be my like first video. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I want to wait till I do this because I don't want to promote that. And like, you know, I'll put disclaimers in my videos that will say when things aren't 100% where I want them to be, but I don't think any good reptile keeper has everything 100%. I think there's always the next thing, but I'm very much like, but I don't want to post on the internet about not 100% because people, maybe that's because I came from TikTok originally, that I'm like, people take this as Bible and people don't like, so I want everything to be perfect in the time that I have. But YouTube gives you that time to kind of say, you know, this is what I have, this is where we're at, but with time I want to do X, Y, and Z, which I think is good for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, I am definitely guilty of that as well. I'm like, oh, I won't post that until I'm like, that's why it took me so long. I was literally saying YouTube's coming next week for 3 months.
Oh, blimey.
And I was
and then you finally bit the bullet.
And then once I did it, I was like, oh, okay, people don't like, you know, people don't react the way that you think. Because I just wanted more time to make everything perfect, and nothing's going to be perfect. So you just need to.
I'll be honest, I found YouTube so far, like I say, I'm not massive on YouTube, but so far I found it to be a bit more of a positive place than Instagram and TikTok. There's a lot less keyboard warriors because people are searching for content that they want to see and that they know that they'll enjoy, or maybe it comes up in their suggested, you know, browsing and feed and things like that. So I have found I've really not got that many hate comments or people disagreeing, or it's actually a bit more of a positive place, I think I've found so far as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, my Instagram, I don't get any general hate. Like on TikTok, I'll get general, just quick, you know, here's a little piece of me for today, because people, you know, they don't want to take too much time out of their day. They want to leave their opinion. Instagram, because it's directly connected to my TikTok, if people really don't like me, they've got a direct link to slide into my DMs and call me C-word, which is nice. But I don't get any of that in between, those quick little hate comments. I don't get that on Instagram because they're not going to take the time to message me and talk about their opinion. It's only the people who want to be either really rude or really nice. And I have a lot of my TikTok people follow me on Instagram. And if anything, I love my Instagram following because that is the people who have gone, right, I like this girl, I want to, you know, become mutuals with her, let's talk, and they'll follow me. YouTube, unless it's about like something super relevant or whatever, I don't get any. I feel like that's the best place in terms of my comments for sure. People don't, if you have enough time to explain yourself, people don't, they aren't as rude because you have enough time to be like, okay, this is my thoughts, but this is why. This is what I'm improving, or this is what I'm doing, or, you know, whatever it is. You have a lot more time to express yourself, and that means that people are a lot less hateful, for sure. I think
different dogs pop up every time. It's superb. It's so funny. Different one every time.
They've got all hyperactive in the background, so I'm trying to get them to
Yeah.
I'm like, they're just popping their little head. But yeah, I think that's the quicker the content, the easier it is to hate me. So I
100%.
think that's very evident for sure.
Yeah.
And also, I think people, even the way that people say stuff on TikTok, they think I'm not going to see it. They'll say, who does this girl think she is? And I'm like, I have a phone and I can see your comment. But because a bunch of people have commented, a bunch of people have viewed it, they think they're just going to blend into the background.
It's going to get lost.
Yeah, but they don't. But then those comments mean less to me than my YouTube ones do.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's relative for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm excited. You can tell me who's coming on in private. No spoilers.
No spoilers. Not yet.
No spoilers on here.
But yeah. Was there one more question, or was that all done?
Yeah, no, it was just if I do a podcast, if you'd want to come and do an episode with me on mine. I know we kind of started this because I was talking about doing a podcast over on my channel. So just whether we could do a part 2, because I don't feel like we've even.
No, honestly, it's barely scratched the surface. Like I say, the amount of times that we've been talking about something, and then it's either been too late for me to then carry on that subject, or there's so much more we could get into. So
I've always been like, oh well, there's this thing, but we can talk about it.
Yeah. And then the same, I've gone, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But obviously, with that being said, we can make a whole nother podcast in itself. So whenever you're good, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to jump on your podcast, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna. That's what I posted about when we started speaking about this.
That's it. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, with that being said, is this the first podcast you've done?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And what do you think of it so far?
What did I do? Did I do okay?
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I think the only thing that we might have a problem with is I think there was sometimes a little bit of a lag between our talking and it reaching each other. But that's probably down to technology and internet connections and stuff. But apart from that, absolutely superb. Like you know what you want to talk about, and you're not shy to talk about it. So that's what you want and what you need. So absolutely spot on. But have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, no, it's good to actually talk. As I said, most of my content's very quick.
Yeah.
And I'm just now branching into maybe 10 to 20 minutes of video content. So this is like a whole. It's kind of what I want to I would love to do and love to talk to people in proper. This is movie, movie level content.
Yeah.
But it's good to actually have. Very rare I'll have this long of a conversation with somebody about reptiles, so I've loved
it. Yeah. No, you've been absolutely superb. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on as well. To be fair, obviously you've given me 2.5 hours of your time for us to talk about reptiles and social media and things like that. But no, it's been superb. And like I say, we haven't even scratched the surface. So when you when you get up and running with your podcast, give me a shout and we'll sort something out for sure.
Yeah, no, it's so funny to me how much we were just we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And it's I can literally sit here for hours.
Definitely.
But
do you know what's mad? And one of the things that I've really enjoyed the most, in general with the podcasting, because part of me was especially when I put the first episode up, I saw that it was 2.5 hours long, similar sort of length to this one. And I was like, is anyone really going to sit and listen to me and whoever else is?
I was going to say, what is your
people will sit and listen. Really not bad. People will sit, watch, and listen to the whole thing. It's and it blows me away because part of me is no one wants to listen to me for obviously it's not just me, it's guests as well, but no one wants to sit and listen to me for that long. But there are people that will listen to this whole thing and message me and be like, oh, I've listened to episode 3 and blah blah blah, this, you made a good point on this, and select parts of it that I'm like, well, that wasn't until about an hour and a half in. So it's really nice. It does make you feel good, because obviously one thing I say is, regardless of how many people enjoy watching or listening to it, I've enjoyed doing it, which is obviously very important. Yeah. But it's really nice to see when people get involved and watch and listen and comment. It's really nice. It is really nice.
Yeah, no, I always find it like when I can, obviously in the backside of YouTube, you can see your analytics in terms of like who's actually sat there and
Yeah,
like seeing people actually sitting there. I can imagine for my 20-minute videos, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I can imagine for like something over 2 hours, seeing like
yeah,
people watch the whole way through. It's like
it's
crazy.
crazy, crazy. Yeah,
Um,
but it is for anyone who is still listening now at the 2.5 hour mark, wherever we are. It is appreciated. I thank you. You know, it means a lot. And yeah, so the last question I have for you is just to shout yourself out a little bit. So what are your social media handles? Obviously, everything will be linked in the description anyway, but tell us what social media sites you use, what your name is on there, and where people can find you.
so I'm Instagram and TikTok is Tori's underscore exotics. I think if you type that into YouTube, you'll see me as well. But it's also Tori Valentine. So my full name is on YouTube as well. I'm sticking to those three at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
But yeah, Tori's exotics, Tori Valentine on everything.
Excellent. Well, like I say, everything's going to be linked in the description anyway. But like I say, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have as well.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been
Excellent.
fun. We need to do a part two. I'm already like
Yeah,
follow-up questions.
definitely. Well, yeah. What I usually do, I put like notes in my phone. I'm like, right, this one, don't forget that one, and it's ready for a part two. So yeah, we'll do that. And like I say, the next one, part two, might be on your page anyway. So we'll send as many people as we can over to your page, and they'll get ready for part two.
You know, we need to hear about all about you on my video.
Yeah.
Plenty of questions that could have gone your way, for sure. But
Excellent.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm like briefly looking at the list I had on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, next time. It's been it's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll
like,
let
yeah,
people
but you
go
haven't
to bed
even.
or get on with their day now, shall we?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Excellent. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. But thank you again. And like I say, when we come off of here, I'll quickly give you some spoilers. So everyone else has got to wait for that. Sorry about that. And yeah, and thank you again. And we'll catch up soon.
yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.